Hey, welcome everyone to the Sketch Zone podcast. I'm Carlos. We're going to go ahead and get into it real fast because this is an old friend of ours.
Yes.
We haven't seen him in a while, and he's a little bit like a unicorn. Like, he's hella cool, but he's hard to
Elusive.
catch. He's a fucking Tamagotchi or one of those things. Hey, you guys, welcome to the show. Tim Sepulveda.
What's up?
Ah,
What's up? How you guys doing?
You guys aren't going to be able to hear that, but there's a studio audience.
it's here. Yeah.
Oh,
Hey, oh, I forgot to
Hi.
hit that button. That's Tim right there. Hey, Tim.
Yeah.
hi. What's going on?
buddy?
Welcome.
How you guys doing?
Welcome.
Doing good. Welcome.
Thank you.
Oh, hey, we might as well introduce the guy with those silky smooth tones coming out of his throat.
Hey, what's up?
Charlie B. Williams III, everybody.
Hey, what's up, Sketch Zone Nation? Glad to be back. Took a little bit of a break for the wifey last week. I hope you guys held it down, drawing some 2D stuff. But now let's talk about a lot more cooler things this week.
It's a hard thing to do when you're not around. But we seem to.
Oh yeah,
manage.
wait. Stop. I got smoked. I heard what you said last week on the show.
What'd I say last week?
Supposedly, I
on the
was
show?
supposed to be with my wife. Like I'm just like leaving you guys behind. Like I'm just playing hooky. I'm gonna dress up like a grown ass man. You better watch your mouth. I know where you live. I had to spend time with the wife, or she would have killed me.
Did you really have to?
Well, we're in quarantine, so I can't go nowhere.
Yeah, right. Yeah, Monica mess around.
Then the two other bouncers that live here,
Monica mess around.
it'll start messing me up
suffocate you with
my
a
7
pillow.
and 3-year-old.
All of a sudden, pillows
Y'all
would be.
start ganging up on me, and it gets scary. There's a lot of women in this house, and a lot of little people. They all band together like Voltron when they wanna take down Dad. Weird. Like before they could be on my side for 1 second, and they'd be like, Monica will say one thing, and they'd be like, then the girls are like, yeah. It's like almost like, the female trigger happens in the 2 7 and 3-year-old. They're like, yeah, we're on mommy's side. I'm like, oh, here it goes.
And that is why my young little girls were fighting.
Yeah. So no, but good. I'm happy to be back, and I'm really excited to talk to Tim.
Yeah, well, happy
Bunch of
anniversary
questions.
again. And
Yeah.
it is Thursday, and it's unfortunate that Jack is not going to be here because Saturday is his birthday. So happy
Oh,
pre-birthday, Jack.
Jack. You
Happy
should clap for
birthday.
Jack.
Yeah.
Yes, Jack.
Um,
Give it up for Mr. Jack.
Yeah,
Happy
this
birthday.
is the only thing. This is the only thing I got for Jack. Again, you guys aren't going to hear these sound effects, but the people will. So this is for Jack. Happy birthday, Jack! Now you guys have to
Oh,
go
that's
back.
great. Yeah, that's great. Yeah.
Did you hear it?
I didn't hear it at all.
Oh,
I was acting. I was trying to act like we've been here for a while, Carlos. but
okay. Hang on. Let's try it again. Hey, Jack! Happy birthday!
Oh yeah, great. Happy birthday, Jack. Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah.
And that's how you do that, my friends.
Yeah. What's up, Elizabeth in the chat? Hello. Thanks for joining us. Thank you.
Yeah,
Shout
hi
out
Elizabeth.
to
Nice
Jack.
to see that an award-winning animator is still coming to see us every week. That's fantastic. It makes the heart feel good.
Mm-hmm.
Speaking
Really.
of making the heart feel good, is it just me or is the world done lost its collective mind?
Well,
Yes.
yeah. And plus, it's getting hot outside. We had this conversation last year about
we?
summertime back in the day. Summertime in Chicago when people come out when they've been cooped up. Remember we had the weather conversation? How
Yeah,
Chicago's weather is so dumb, and
Yeah.
then like summertime comes because it's like the best time to live in Chicago.
yeah.
And then people just start acting a fool.
Yeah.
Well, now we have to add this quarantine and COVID on top of it. And
Yeah.
it seems like everyone has in the whole country has this weird Chicago fever when it
Right.
hits 80.
Right. And the funny thing is, like, everyone in Chicago was like this. It was like January and February. Everyone was like, "Ooh, summer's right around the corner." COVID said, "Keep your."
And then everybody with the voting numbers when it was down, they realized, I should have got out and vote. I don't think I'm getting out. ever again. Life would have to like lock down for you guys. Luckily, I'm in the burbs, it's like 20 minutes away. Amir lives up the street from me. You good friends. Yeah. Tim, are you still in Chicago area?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. You can come out to my house.
Thanks. Yeah.
Are you still in Chicago proper, or are you in the burbs?
Oh, I'm still in Chicago proper.
Proper.
Oh, cool.
Proper.
Look at him. It's dark. It's dark where he is right now.
There's no power.
Well,
it's a candle.
Well, Charlie, I'm gonna leave that one alone.
What were you gonna say? Yeah. Uh huh.
Nothing. I was just saying, hey, Tim is here. Isn't it cool? We finally get to catch up to Tim.
Yeah, Tim. Yeah. Yeah.
So the last time we saw Tim,
Watching you.
so for those of you that
Catch up.
that don't know,
Story time.
I believe Tim was one of my students that I had to place. Because like when your name came up, Tim, the first thing that my brain went to was your resume. Was I your career service counselor or whatever?
You know, sadly, those years are blocked.
Yo.
Perfect.
Why is it every time you talk about AI? Everybody, you see a couple people, everybody's gonna have to say, I don't remember anything to talk about.
I went to college? What are you talking about?
I woke up and had a job. Woke up and just started working in effects.
I don't, you know what? Honestly don't remember very much. I remember starting randomly, and then I drove by the school one day, and I was like, I want to go to college. And then, and the best part was that day they were like, oh, cool, you want to start today? I was like, what are you talking about? And they're like, just start now. So I just sat in some drawing class with nothing, and I was just like, huh.
Wait, they started the same day. You wow.
I just drove up. I drove up, parked, and I was like, hi, can I go to school here? And they're just like, sure.
Love my school. Great.
And that, my friends,
oh my gosh.
and that, my friends, is why that school no longer exists. No, I'm not trying to talk about your skills, Tim. I'm not. I'm just saying.
My skill set is horrible. No.
Don't let this man fool you.
Yeah. Tim is like, I'm a sandwich artist at Subway.
Tim, do you remember when you graduated?
Yeah, 05.
Yeah.
Okay, because we're the same age.
Yeah.
You were born in 1980, right?
Yeah.
So I'm trying to figure out.
I'm delayed though.
When did you get there?
I got there in 2000 because I got there in 01 because what happened was so my high school, I was like, I'll say here's the story. Here's the deep story.
Okay.
So when I was at high school for job fair, there was no art school showed up. And I was just like,
damn.
This sucks. I was like, I really wanted to go do some art because that was all I did. I ditched gym class to go draw all day. And it was just like, I was like, what do I do? And I was like, oh, there's an automotive school here. I like cars. So I did automotive school.
Gosh.
I got
we gotta put it into that career fair.
Yeah.
No, what's crazy is he just walked up that day and he was like, hey, I like cars. And they're like, you feel like a mechanic. All right, cool. You can start today.
You drive a car? We got a place for you. It's kind of what it was, actually.
Have you ever stepped on a gas pedal? You're going to be a mechanic.
So you did that for a year?
So I did full automotive school, got certified, and then I was like, this sucks. I was like, I don't want to. I did a whole bunch of jobs in the automotive industry and just wasn't my thing. And because it was like, you're going to work on hot rods, and that wasn't the case. You're going to work on Beamers, and people are going to yell at you. And it's just like, why am I doing this? Yeah. And I was like, I want to do automotive school. Or I want to do art school. And yeah, I ended up just showing up and starting that same day. And
holy cow.
Then, yeah, I just stayed there for 4 years.
Okay. In the building, they never let you go home.
I just lived in the elevator shaft. Actually, no one ever checked.
Yeah, no one checked. That's how you got in.
What was the security
guard's
guard's name?
Security back in the day, you could avoid the security.
Just waved.
What was the security guard's name though? What was the security guard's name though? Because he was there for a long time.
Who?
The security guard.
Yeah, was it Abu?
Abu,
so,
that's
yeah.
right.
Yeah.
That's
I
my
have a
boy,
weird
man.
memory. I don't know why. I remember
He never
him.
left though.
He
That guy
never
was
left.
That guy like was there on the weekends even.
And he
Yeah.
remembers you. If you go in there,
Remembers
Well, not
Santa
anymore.
Claus?
it's weird. It was what? How long? I went back to talk after I got my job at EA, and like it had to be a good 2.5 years. You know, I mean, I used to go up there a lot, but like he would remember you, and then I'm like, okay, cool. I'm up here a lot. He sees me, user groups or whatever. But then you know, as you get into your career, it gets longer before you go back, right? So then it was like maybe 4 years in
I don't mean
between.
to
I
laugh.
be back, like right. So like 4 years, I happened to come back randomly because I was going to look for Jared. I was just going to see. I was in the area. I was like, I'm not in the Chicago. I'm gonna go see Jared. I come in, and as soon as I walk toward the elevator because I didn't go up the side. He points and is like, "Hey, it's been a while." I was like, "How do you remember me? It's been 4 years. It's been 6 years."
Got your ID? No.
but you know the level of like security was still in there. He's like, all right, and I'm just like, cool. And I just kept walking. Like, you know, I don't go here no more. I didn't have to sign in or nothing. This is crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. For me, I went to school there. Then I graduated, and I was still doing, you know, the Flash user group. I was still doing that, and then while I was out in the industry, and then when I came back to work at the school, and then I just kept showing up because like Jared still worked there, Ernie still worked there, or Ernesto because he's grown, whatever. So I had a very long friendship with Abu, and he was always just like, hey, celebrating. And I'm like, how you doing, man? He's like, oh, I'm good. I hate my wife.
Yeah, he would make those weird jokes.
Oh my god. Wow.
Yeah. So anyway,
That's crazy.
so you went from you were always
2001.
addicted to art,
05.
and then we almost lost you to the automotive industry, and then you found AI and started that day.
It started that day.
Did they look at a portfolio? Did they just like, you got a pretty smile, and they get in here?
Like, yay. It was you know what, I try to kind of not laugh about it because I am half Puerto Rican.
Yeah.
So I think that
They
you know
had
where
the
that's
quota.
going.
Yeah, you see, because you joined in. You might. So this is it. I was there, and then after I graduated, they were hungry for you because I had just finished, and they gave you my spot.
Shut up.
Just like,
This is the weirdest recap we've ever done.
damn right. Aren't you happy you invited me? It's only going to get weirder.
Oh, great.
How did you, like, in all seriousness, how did you like going to art school?
I loved it. It was fun. It was cool. Saturday classes were the worst because I ended
True.
up, for some reason, I was like, I'm going to get life drawing out of the way 2 semesters in a row. So I did 22 weeks sitting on one of those wood horses.
You did those back to back?
I did them back to back just to get them out of there.
Jeepers.
And man, I lost a lot of weight because I didn't want to eat after that class.
I lost a lot of weight because I was poor.
Well, we didn't have anything to eat out there. It was like you had Bologna beef and like Panda Express or the mall, and like
Yeah.
that was
When I was going to school there, I was also bartending at a place called California Cafe there in the mall.
Mhm.
And there was a lot of times where for dinner, I was the bartender. So I was eating olives and cherries for dinner. Charlie, I'm not even kidding you, bro. I'm not kidding.
future T-shirt right there. Future T-shirt. I'm just letting you guys know. Olives and cherries.
I mean, you had that like Chipotle, but that was just a little bit too far.
That was too expensive. What are you talking about?
Remember, all right, remember when Chipotle was like? It was like fine dining, like
When
that
people
was like
wash
a
their
concept
hands?
store.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yeah, Well, that was a concept store. And then about that time, 01, 2000, 2001, there wasn't a lot of Chipotle's anywhere in the US. So that was like that made like Streets of Woodfield like cool.
We got Chipotle and Jamba Juice. This is awesome.
Right, like the early one before they got like the Lego store, before all the other stuff. Like, and then the burritos were bigger. You know, it's a concept because like now they've gotten smaller. The burritos used to be like this. There used to be contests at school. You'd buy 2 on purpose. And I dare you to try to finish one. The only one I knew that could finish one is a guy we went to school with named Drew.
Oh yeah,
Drew. You know, and like I watched him finish 4 of those bad boys.
holy hell!
Well, now Drew was built like a linebacker anyway, but like it's ridiculous. It was ridiculous how many times they would try to like. It was like we didn't have nothing to do in the burbs. It was
Yeah,
it was
the burbs. Hey, we had Chipotle burrito eating contest.
Welcome to art school.
It's crazy, but it used to. I was talking to a good buddy of mine, best friend Patrick, and he was like, Chipotle just don't hit the same way it used to. Like it just don't taste the same. Because he was like, I'm in the mood for Chipotle. He was like kind of disappointed the other week. got delivered or something. I mean, I still love Chipotle, but I do remember it being back when it was like a concept. It was secretly owned by McDonald's and no one knew.
Oh yeah.
It was a lot more authentic. I don't know what that means, but
muy autentico.
It felt good at the time.
Things tasted ethnic. No.
I mean, that's when so it was great, but cool. So we were there at the same time. We overlapped. I got there in September 2000.
I don't remember when.
And I graduated March of 04. So
okay, so you graduated ahead of me. Yeah,
which makes sense if you got there 01. We were about a year
offset. Yeah. And knowing that school, you rarely ran into anybody else.
It was weird. Like, yeah. Did you always take night classes? Like,
I took mostly night, because I was working. Yeah, so I was working. I worked at Guitar Center, and then I worked at EB Games for the longest time before GameStop ruined that whole thing. Mm-hmm. And that was awesome. That was great. Like, I still have stuff. I worked at the
GameStop across the street from with also. Like, I started doing that.
Yep.
Back in the day when those managers were like really getting it. They had a really good one there for a long time. Before they became into weird, like, you walk into a weird like pawn shop and they're trying to get you to buy like Pokemon figurines or something.
Would you like some pops? Yeah.
Yeah.
Which one of the discount Funko Pops would you like today?
And now you have the stereotypical gamer girl that's behind, because then they realize sometime in like the 2015s or something like that like if we get female managers, don't hate me, anybody what I'm about to say, but if we get female managers and then like it fit a certain stereotype, we'll sell more. It's like egregious. Like you could tell this is like thought up by somebody that's not into gaming, because then they all have that super aggressive like
you want a disc protection program?
Yeah. What's the girl on Instagram that does the Psycho Girlfriend stare? She does that crazy all of them had that, and then like the levels of flair on their lanyards, know. But ridiculous. I digress.
Yeah, GameStop was apparently very different from EB. EB was very much more calm. It was very much more like I worked at 3 stores, and all of us went from each store to each store, and I ended up working at the one in Glenview, which was brand new at the time. And it was like the high tootin' EB Games. It was like way nicer than I ever had seen. Oh, it was great. Like our clientele was amazing, but like it kind of turned into a daycare at the end. It was like
on Sundays,
kids off. Oh no, not Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sundays. Yeah, it was
because like that's how it was on GameStop on Sundays. Like, because that's when usually the Game Boy stuff came out, or the release.
Right, Nintendo was Sundays every freaking time for some reason.
And you can see the parents be like going past the door like a drive-by, and they just pushing the kids in. I'm like, that's not really what.
We don't have a bathroom.
On the side of the counter, looking at the Game Boy game for like an hour. Like, so what do you play? Why are you trying to watch people from stealing in the store.
And you know
But
what's
that was
funny is
oh, go ahead.
going back to working at, finding young ladies to work at these stores. Kind of the same thing happens on Twitch. You get some girls that are kind of, which listen.
You really had a bad experience on Twitch, didn't you?
Actually, not really. I mean, but the reality is that like you got some folks who, they wear the right shirt. Which, and again, listen, I'm not the guy who is going to defend gaming. I'm just not. If these girls are out here and they're making a living and they're doing their thing, handle your business. That just means that there's a bunch of thirsty ass men out here watching.
Yeah,
you can't get mad at the young ladies.
Yeah, you see the weird influence because like once again, just like with GameStop, things can get perverted into something that makes money, right? And then now GameStop is a weird toy shop / games, but like and it's funny because like I think my daughter messed up and like got some syrup or something on her like Nintendo controller, on her Switch, and then he realized, oh, I'll just rinse it off with water in the sink, full blast. So then I'm like, well, GameStop would come in handy because I probably can get a used one for cheaper than spending $85 on a new one. But do you want to go in there and deal with all the like 30 levels of like protection plans and stuff like that, when back in the day, probably just like where Tim worked at EB Games, right? Like it was about like having good clientele and like helping a mom or a dad out didn't know nothing about gaming. So yeah, I can see how things get perverted.
Well, that was the like, not to sidetrack quick, but like that was the one thing that like working retail leading into college and leading after that really helped, because that influenced a lot of the people I hired, actually, which was kind of interesting. So like when I was in hiring roles, I always would look and see if they actually had a retail job first a lot of times, because that means you could deal with the worst case scenarios of customers. And if you work Black Friday, you understand exactly what you can deal with. So for me, it was always like, okay, cool. You worked at, I don't even care where the hell it was, but it was like you work somewhere where you've had people experience. So that was the one thing I liked about it. And yeah, like back then when I was working there, it was a totally different beast than it is these days. I couldn't even imagine trying to function in that type of job anymore.
But that's a good point. You bring that up where you talk about how that prepares you. And I do think all the retail jobs, and Carlos, you probably say the same thing, while you while you in art college, in my head drove me to keep wanting to do art because you're kind of closely related to it in some instances because it's gaming and stuff like that or whatever. And that like this is going to get better if I keep doing this. Like at least that's how I thought about it. Even the retail jobs I worked after college, like I have to go work at this Foot Locker or Finish Line or Hollister, even if I don't wear the clothes, but this salary is going to keep me up here in Illinois so I don't have to move back home. And I'm going to get my job. And that's one of the hallmarks of my young career starting. The best thing ever was able to walk into that Woodfield Mall after working overnights as a manager and telling my district manager for an hour and a half, no, I'm not. I'm out. I don't want that job in Indiana as a store manager. Where are you going to work? Where are you going to? I'm going to work for, and then him knowing what that place was and being able to be like, peace. If it's the best thing. It's the best feeling in the world, from all those weird late nights and Black Fridays. Oh, or people you're managing have better cars than you, and they're like 17.
Yeah, and that's just it. And that's just it, though, right? Because you do what it takes to stay afloat. Same exact approach is a lot of these folks that'll move to LA because they want to be actors. You see, there's a lot of times, I was going to say the majority of the times, but I don't have that number in front of me, but you always hear of people moving to LA because they want to be an actor, and then they're a bartender or a bellhop or a server or whatever, and they're just staying afloat until that break happens. And once it happens, then, we can sit back and talk about eating 2 burritos and 2 Chipotle burritos, but you have to maintain that passion, especially in school, because even though they might trick you, one day you go in to go talk about a school and they don't let you go out until you enrolled, not looking at anyone in particular, but you know what I mean. Uh, you have to stay afloat while you're making things happen.
Yeah. And usually, like when you're in school, like if we circle back to Tim being in school, what was the point during your college career, I guess you would say, that like you kind of figured out what you wanted to do, or did you not know for most of the time, or was there any switch like I like doing this stuff?
Yeah,
and like
there was a switch. I don't remember if it was junior year or senior year, but so for I think when us it was just you had not many options of like majors to choose. Supposedly, it was like you're an animation major. It's the most generic term ever, and it's like okay, fine, that's. So those like 2000s, early 2000s. That's cool. But I had one class with Darian way back in the day, an After Effects course, and that was instantaneous.
The light.
Yeah, the light went off. I was like, holy Jeebus, I can do this instantaneously. Like, I enjoyed it. And, he always had side projects we were working on, stuff like that together in a room. And a couple of the guys I ended up going to my first job with were part of that too, which was really cool. So they kind of knew me from that too a little bit. But yeah, I don't remember when that was, but the funny thing was that I kind of was like, was there anything else like this? Is there anything else available to teach? Like, is there motion graphics too? Or I don't even remember what that class was called. It was called something completely wrong as usual.
Yeah.
But it was like, it was, I wanted more of that, and I couldn't get that out of the school, which was really frustrating for me. But then it was like always the talk of like, not to completely be an AI bash session, but it was like, oh, come back, take another degree, and it's like, no, like why? What?
We're good. Yeah.
Yeah, we're okay. But then I remember there were being other students sitting next to me that were like, oh, I'm going to go back for this one and this one and this one, and I was like, wait, what?
Wait, why are you
like,
doing that? Yeah.
Like you're getting certified like that. Each, to each his own. But for me, it was like, I just want to get out there and start doing stuff. But like, so I graduated and I literally took my entire portfolio and threw the thing out. It was like, I remember getting into arguments because we were at the time when, it was like, I was fighting for DVDs.
Oh, you're right there with us.
To be normal. And they were like, no, you need a super VHS. And no one knows what a super VHS is anymore. No one knows what a VHS is.
Right.
I remember,
let alone super one.
Yeah, let alone a super one. Where do you get that? And I had to go to like Jewel to get one, which was really weird. I had to go to the grocery store. Yeah, but I remember I got in so much trouble at Portfolio Show because of that, and because I took all the VHSs, I threw them under the table, and I was like, I'm not doing this. This is dumb. And so I went to Circuit City. I bought the biggest TV I could find. I knew I was going to return it because Circuit City had like a 24-hour return policy. So I bought this thing, bought this big sound system. I was like, I don't care. Put this DVD on, rented a freaking DVD player. And I was just like, this is doing it. I'm going to roll with this. This is how I'm going to end up taking it. And it was fine. I mean, it worked perfectly. I remember at the end of it, I forgot who I went up to. I think I may have gone up to the dean or someone. Or it was one of the career services people, and I lifted my table and I was like, yo, look, those are all VHSs. Every DVD's gone. I don't know what you're doing. And then subsequently I was not talked to for a while after that. But
And what year was this?
05.
05.
DVDs existed.
I was gone by then.
Yeah, so it's okay. So
Yeah,
DVD,
he wasn't yelling at me.
We were having both of them. Yeah, we would like. I strategically had to dean for a portfolio on purpose because there's other teachers that were like failing you if you didn't do it. So like, I still had to do the VHS, but like I had DVDs too. But then, so by the time Tim came a year later, they probably was like, this whole DVD thing's not going away, is it? Like students keep asking.
Yeah.
Like, movies are available on a different format. This is amazing.
Yeah.
No, and then where was I going to go with that? Oh, we used to have the one machine that you can put one tape in and then record, right?
Oh,
Well,
I
how
remember
is it
sitting
that
there.
you're going to have 100 people graduating, but only one machine?
oh, that used to be like you put your white sheet of paper over the thing, saying it's taken.
It's in use.
Do
Touch
you
it.
know why I became a lab tech? Because I held the keys after that.
Hell yeah.
I like became an RA. I was like, oh, this is the worst idea. My mama said, no, that's paying for half your college. You're gonna keep doing that. And
Hell
then
yeah.
halfway through, I'm like, okay, this is all right. Because I started seeing the perks. And then I was like, I need to become a lab tech because I need a key to the lab. I had my key worked better than all the faculty. They would call me out of class to unlock a door.
Yeah.
This is what happens when you get three people from the same college together in one chunk.
It's so great. It's such great memories though. Like because like
And see,
oh,
for
it's
me,
great.
I'm the mentality like this. I don't want to own a boat. I want a friend who has a boat, right? That was me. Because Charlie and I were friends, but my best friend at the time, Ernesto, was the lab manager or whatever the hell he was.
Yeah, he's the
So there's
boss.
a lot of times I would just be like, Ernie, look, dude, I gotta, and then he would let me in and I'd do all the work that I needed to do and we out.
I rendered on like
Oh my
two
God.
labs, network rendered. Didn't even know that was a thing you could do later in life. But I used like two labs to render out my portfolio. Like during school hours. I can say it's not there anymore. Like I was like, because all of it had Max on it, I just used the Max's built in. I was like, this is great for my like bubblegum
Yeah.
reflective like
Yeah.
animation thing or whatever I was doing. It was great. It was great.
All right. I want to take a quick second
Yeah.
to say hi to Landon, to Travis. What's up, dude?
Gabriel.
And who else just snuck in? Gabriel.
Gabriel.
There was a couple other people. Anyway, so
Motion graphics. Yeah.
yeah, that was going to be my next question. Was what was your degree in?
I was just basically in animation. So I was technically 3D animation
Okay.
was what I got my degree in, which was
Media arts and
fine.
animation, right?
Yeah, media arts
Absolutely.
animation. I forgot it was that huge name behind it. Yeah, it was basically that, and it was fine. It was confusing, because it was very generalized. But then at the end of the day, you were geared towards going to gaming so heavily.
Yeah.
Like everybody just wanted you to do that no matter what. And
Yeah,
it was,
that-
Because there's
switching.
plenty of gaming companies in the Chicago area. There's no animation.
It was a weird switch though around that time too, because they
Mhm.
started realizing there's a lot of gaming companies. I used to make fun of the gaming degree kids because there was a gaming degree by the time we were graduating. And I was like, "What are you doing? You should just stay in where you are," because
Yeah.
the teachers were learning. I think it was Unreal or whatever at the time, UDK,
Yeah.
old school, but like it was too new. But they were finding people were getting jobs in gaming.
Mhm.
But like before, but I think media arts and animation, I think it was to me was the best degree that they've ever done there.
yeah,
Because it was so generalized that like
Yeah.
if you talk to everyone and people, if you go back, guys who's on chat, you go back and listen to different people that we've said we went to school with, they all went into different industries, but we all were coming from the same degree, which
Right.
I don't know why at the time they didn't realize that because they had something there and then they started like branching and pasteurizing a little bit.
And I think this is a really good point to if you're a student, you should the one thing that you can take away from and I saw Gabriel say, "Hey Landon, is it art school horror tonight?" Yeah, kind of. But the one thing as a student coming
In a good
into
way.
it, what you should take away from it is if you do decide to go into art school, keep your eyes open because, I mean, we had Tim. He almost became a mechanic, and then he turned into a motion graphic artist. Charlie, you wanted to be in cartoons and stuff, or did you always want to be in gaming and stuff?
No, I wanted to work for like Blur or DreamWorks or somewhere like that.
Yeah,
So it's like 3D modeling in for feature.
yeah. So he wanted to do features, and what the hell did I want to be? I don't even know. I think I was just trying to figure it out. So
Yeah.
I just finished my degree in advertising and I was like, that was cool, but it's not enough. And then when I found animation, that was it. But then I went to school for 3D and then I realized that my love was in Flash. And so it was
That's it
that.
away.
Like
Yeah, yeah.
you go in with a rough idea of what you want to do, what you want to be. You find your motivation. A lot of times it's, oh, I watched Toy Story or anything like that. But you go in and you use the school for what the hell it's for. You don't put so much importance or don't give that much power to anyone, let alone a school whose main objective is to make money, specifically this type of school. Use
Yeah.
the school for what the hell it's for. And what it's for is to show you what's possible, and then you go in that direction. Perfect example was Tim. He went for animation and he turned into a motion graphics badass, right?
Kind of, yeah.
Yeah. So from that, like, where did you go from there? Like, what was your first
Well,
job? You liked
my-
After Effects, you said. And-
Yeah. After Effects was my big home originally, but then of course school taught us 3D Studio Max, which, for lack of a better situation, was kind of the wrong thing for us to learn.
Mhm.
Just because Maya was everywhere. I mean, it still is everywhere. But at the same time, like, I realized that there was a lot you could do with Max that you couldn't do in Maya. So my first job was at Radar Studios in Chicago. That was one of the most fun times I've ever had in my career. It was so fresh. I may have been super naive
Mhm.
at the same time, but it was amazing. I actually originally got hired on as a flame assistant.
Really?
which-
Flame?
Yeah, flame assist. Yeah.
Did you
And-
know Flame?
Nope. So I was just like,
Tell
I
people
was
what
just like-
radar is, so they know, so they
Yeah,
kind of
so
know and
Radar's-
understand what these terms are.
Radar is a commercial VFX house in Chicago. They were, back when I was there, we were really well known for like crazy McDonald's commercials, a lot of the Happy Meal stuff way back in the day, a lot of toy commercials. Some of that stuff is still on their reel, which is crazy. That's impressive as all heck, just because
Wow.
we did that in like 05, 06. And it still holds up, looks really good. It might be 4:3 square, but it was, Instagram went back though, so it's all valid again.
Yeah.
But it was that was amazing because it was so fresh. It was a cool studio where we were making skateboards too for swag, swag, whatever you want to call it. We were making that stuff. We were making T-shirts all the time. We were doing like crazy stuff. The owners were really cool, very open to everything. I actually found one of the original DVDs mock-ups I made the other day cleaning out the basement, and it still holds up. And I'm like, wow, that's crazy. But yeah, so anyways, I started off as a flame assist, and I was like, I really want to be out there in the cool kids pool, working on like the commercials and After Effects and 3D stuff. And the two owners are basically like, you're gonna have to fight for that because there's a lot of people here that do that, and you've got to kind of show us you got your A game. So, and I did some, I stayed in like roto land. Basically, I rotoscoped for a while. And it was fine. It's you get in the zone, you kind of just do your thing, you zone out, which was fine.
What software did you use for rotoscoping?
So that's a funny story, actually. So we were beta testing what became like Mocha, like After Effects has Mocha motor built into it. So we were actually using like a beta version of that. One of the owners knew someone, and I became sucked into it. It was so cool, so fast to use. And it was a standalone program back in the day. So we're using that. But then we were also using Silhouette Roto back in the day, which was distinctly just rotoscoping program. And it was funny, we were using it and we were like, oh cool, let's export this stuff to Flame because it could go to Flame. I think that was the main reason we used it. We went to export and it's like, you must purchase a license. And we were like, wait, what?
Oh,
like
Wah, wah.
we did that. What's going on here?
Got you. Yeah.
So we ended up having to like call the person. It was like one person that ran the place back in the day. And he was like, I'm at the Academy Awards or something. I forgot where he was at. And he was like somewhere. He's like, I got to get back to you in a couple of hours. We're like, oh, like, what are you talking about? We need it now. Like, we need a key now. Just generate a key. We paid for this. Like, what's going on? So that was funny. But then I eventually was just like, cool. I earned their respect and got out to be in the cool kids VFX pool. Nice. So out there I was doing After Effects stuff. I was designing a lot of stuff, a lot of design frames, a lot of tear sheet stuff. And it was crazy because like they basically kind of just dumped everything in my lap and was like, here, run with it. Like you want to creative direct, make this commercial happen. You want to do this, make this happen. And it was just like, okay, cool. I'm terrified. Let's still do this and rock it out. So I ended up doing that for a couple of years there. And it was like titles kind of existed, but didn't, so it was like you did creative direct your own stuff, but you did lead a team, but you kind of were just an artist, which was, I didn't know better. And I was just like, oh, that's fine. I'm cool with that. I saw them a couple years back and talked to them again. And it was still really good vibes with everybody there, which was awesome. Okay. So like Radar was my first place. Then from Radar, I went to Daily Planet, which is another Chicago-based place. Yeah. I was there for not a long time, but it was still very fun. They did all like the cool Blackhawks intros way back in the day.
Oh, nice.
A lot of other stuff there. Then from there, I went to Foundation, which used to be around in Chicago a while back, Foundation Post. Mm-hmm. So I went there for a while. That was good experience. A little more film stuff, like filmish VFX stuff, short film stuff. Still some commercial stuff, but it wasn't like hardcore VFX. But throughout this time, I kind of was just like, I kind of always bounced between 3D, 2D, and then still doing After Effects stuff. So it was like knowing a bit of everything was always really good. And there's always that like that curse where it's like, like you don't master anything at that point. You just become, like jack of all trades, master of none type of thing.
It's like a generalist, VFX generalist.
Yeah. It's really hard to get stuck into that too, because like people are just like, so suddenly you're just doing one thing all day. And it's fine, but then, so when I was there, one of the people from AI, because like, my senior year at AI, we used to have the Artimation Festival, which was humongous. And that was like one of the best things the school did, I felt, was like give students the chance to have their stuff on a big screen. Was it necessarily curated the best? No. Was it like really gone through with a fine tooth comb? No. But like my senior year, I ended up like just bashing through and like I found my diploma the other day too, going through the basement. And I found I was like, oh, it's still here. And I found my cap and gown too, which was hilarious. I threw that right out though. But but I found the stack of like the awards I won that year, and it was like 6 or 7 awards. And it was funny because so in like 2007, one of the judges from that competition emailed me randomly and was like, hey, I don't know if you remember me. Like, I now run a recruiting company. Like, I love your stuff. Like, would you ever feel like moving and relocating? And it was, I was like, I have no idea. Like, I'm from Chicago. I'm scared to leave, kind of, but like everybody else was like running out to LA.
Was that Rochelle Lewis that did that?
No, it was Isla, actually.
Isla.
Okay.
Yeah. So she hunted me down, which was awesome. And
That's
she was
funny.
like,
she went and found you.
Yeah, she went and found me, which was really interesting. And then she was like, do you want to go to LA? Do you want to go to New York? I was like, well, I like New York. Like for some reason, I was just like, I want to go to the grittier, harder side of everything. So she's like, okay, I found you some studios and let's see how this goes. So I ended up getting, I went out to New York for a weekend. And I met the team over at Charlex out there. And Charlex has been around. If you guys don't know, Charlex, they're still around. They've been around since like 77, I think. They did like all like the original, like one of the original SNL intros. They won. Hey, Jack's chatting to us. What's up, Jack?
Yeah, Jack got caught with work. Wish he was here, buddy.
Yeah. But so it was awesome. So like, they won like one of the first MTV Music Video Awards for like the Cars music video and stuff like that too, which was, I got to hold that in my hand. That was kind of cool. Nice. But yeah, so I got recruited out there, and that was like super, super intimidating because like everybody was telling me in Chicago was like, oh, Charlix just eats people up, spits them out. Like you're not going to survive. You're not going to make it. And I was like, that's fine. like, what do I have to lose? I have nothing to lose.
Sounds like you're
move
hating.
back
I'm
home.
going anyway. Yeah, I'm going
I was
anyway.
Like, okay, cool, whatever, people. So I went, and it was amazing. I stayed for about 2 years. And I started off there as just a senior designer. So I was designing all their frames, all their pitches, pitch books, doing some After Effects work, some 3D work. And then eventually Alex, who passed away, I think last year or the year prior, unfortunately, awesome, crazy awesome dude. But like he basically was like, Tim, you're doing such good work. Would you like to become an associate creative director here? And there already was another one. So I was just like, uh-oh, like, what is this going to do? Like, is this going to bash heads here? Yeah. But it ended up being really good because I ended up kind of getting stuff that fit my wheelhouse really well. And he ended up, the other creative director ended up taking stuff that fit his wheelhouse really well too. So it was really good. And I got to work with the team, and that team was big. That was not a small shop. That was like,
how big? What was it? How many people you managing that point?
It's funny. It's funny. Like going from like Chicago, where it was like managing yourself, to like maybe a group of 7, Chicago, I could see like maybe 10 sometimes. But like New York was like, I still would manage myself a lot of the time. But then sometimes, we would staff up to 50.
Huh.
Okay.
Maybe for some stuff. Yeah, maybe even more. And that was like, you're managing multi-million-dollar accounts, which you still do in Chicago. But it was just a lot more intense was the key word. And for me, that fit really well. And for some reason, New York was just home. Like, it was weird. Like, I'd only been there for a couple shoots with Radar before, doing some stuff for like Nickelodeon. And when I went back, it was very different. And I was just like, wow, like this really connects. Like the team and I'm still friends with most of the team that was there. And it's not a lot of shops I can say that that's happened. And it was mostly because
like a tight bond, yeah.
Oh my God, it was the tightest bond I've ever felt. Like it's very hard. Oh, he's going to be right back.
He's good. Keep going.
But like, it was one of the best experiences, but one of the hardest experiences ever, I think, too. Because it was like, we worked probably, not to scare anybody off, but we worked back in the day. We were working probably 18 hours.
Yeah.
20-hour days sometimes.
80-hour work weeks or more, yeah.
Oh, God, yeah. Easily 80-hour work weeks.
I think I felt that the same way at EA also. Like, I don't know if it was because, like, it was the first place, but, like, the people there I still talk to today. It's like, it's different from anywhere else. Well, there and the next place I went to, but, like, there was, like, it's different. I could see that, so I know what you meant by that.
Yeah, there was, like, it was funny, not to, like, totally brag about how crazy it was, but, like, we each had our own drivers at night. That would take us
to get you home. Yeah, you told me the story before. Yeah,
yeah. Like, I don't remember my guy's name, but he'd be outside, be like, "Hello, sir, Tim. Would you like to go home tonight?" I'm like, "Yes, please."
Like, please take me home now. Or
please take me home now.
Hungry.
Stop at Taco Bell on the way home. But it was the quintessential like New York experience, and I never can forgive. I don't regret doing it ever once.
Where'd you live in New York, though?
So when I was in New York, I ended up living up in White Plains, which was funny. Like, everyone's like, what the heck? Where the heck is that? Like, you didn't live in Brooklyn? I'm like, nope, I didn't live in Brooklyn. Like, I wanted something that was like, it wasn't suburby, but it wasn't like too city and wasn't too suburb. It's just like this crazy. I wanted this like nice blend, and like White Plains was awesome. It was kind of like Logan Squares out in Chicago. Like,
okay. So
it's a nice
quiet.
Mix. It's a quiet, but it's a nice mix of everything. You got good culture.
Still feels like the city. Yeah.
Yeah, it still feels like the city. It was like a 20-minute ride only on the train, which is like crazy. And like everybody kind of like always laughs to me because they're just having a driver was very nice.
Yeah.
But like the funny thing was
they call that Uber today, Landon.
Uber, but a black car, and it's not a scary one to get into.
Yeah. Right.
But it was like, that was the day, like 4 a.m. champagne toasts to like successfully shipping something. Like, it was just crazy. And like, I never could forget that. It was just such a great time. And like, I left, and Alex and I were both really sad the day I left. And, I ended up moving back here.
So talk about that transition then. So what brought you out of that, like, safe, I mean, it's crazy. It was crazy schedules, but I guess you could still call it being a safe routine, if you will, and got you to come back. Did you just miss the Shy?
You know what? It was, not to get too personal, but a lot of it was based on my partner I was with at the time too.
Okay. Okay.
There was a lot of homesickness for both of us.
Right.
On that end, obviously we had just uprooted and moved to a new state. We only knew very few people. So it's very stressful trying to like figure that out. And it kind of just was like, yeah, it was a decision of like, well, I was barely home as it was. And I can't even imagine the stress that puts on somebody. It's really tough. And I kind of was just like, yeah, I'm like, if we want to move back to Chicago, like that's the safest bet. Like, let's just do that. So we ended up moving back here in 2010, 2011. So it was so weird. Like I made the move out there during the housing crisis, which was like the worst thing I could have. My brain was like, why did I do this? But then we moved back here and it was great. So it's funny moving back to Chicago because everybody was like really eager to get their fingers on me, as gross as that sounds. Like everyone was like, ooh, you were in New York. Let's see what we could pry out of you. And I'm like, I don't know what you think you're prying out of me. Like the thing for me was going to New York showed me that what I was doing in Chicago was the right thing the whole time.
Oh, cool.
Oh, okay.
And because I didn't change how I acted, I didn't change how I performed, I didn't change how I directed people or interacted with people. Going to New York showed me that there was a lot more trust put into me. Which not to knock and it's really hard not to knock anybody about that. Right. But that was because as funny as it is, not to kind of backtrack a little bit, when I left,
good. Keep going.
When I left the job I was at in Chicago before I went to New York, I literally ended up working on an account and I was trying to push these new ideas and like have fun with it. And it was like, oh, let's play it a little more safe. And when I went to New York, funny as it was, that was the same account they were pitching on too.
No. Okay.
And I was like, okay. I was like, well, guys, I was working back this in Chicago. Is that a conflict of interest thing?
Or something? Yeah.
They were just like, no, like, what were you going to present? I presented all of these ideas and they're like, we're doing it. We're rolling with it. Like, just go. Like, just crank out as much as you can. And I pitched all that stuff that Chicago was scared to have me pitch on, which was so frustrating. But at the same time, it was very validating that was happening. Right. Yeah. I was like, yeah. And like the ideas, I pitched ideas in New York that were crazy. I pitched ideas of a bucket of paint getting tossed and the paint turned into a paintball. It exploded on a map. And it was like just these crazy ideas. A pinball machine that ripped apart. That's still on their website too. And I've seen that done in different, different incarnations, like from other studios too. And that's not saying we came up with the first pinball machine that broke apart. Cool. But it was like that job still holds up. That was my final job there. I slept in the office 7 days. I looked like Ted Kaczynski when I came out of that job. It was not good.
And what was the final delivery? What was it for? Who was it?
It was for Georgia Lottery of all things. Like it was like we killed ourselves. Like they got me a hotel across the street, like a micro hotel, just so I could sleep, roll in, roll out, shower, pretend I smell okay, went back to the office, and then I would just drink red eyes all day. And I'm amazed I made it out of there. But it was that last experience brought the team together so close because everybody was like rooting for everybody just to finish this job. Like, let's just get it out the door. Yeah. And the funniest thing was like, and this is, a lot of people don't know this, but now the world knows. The funniest thing was that like the client showed up, sat in the room with us because Charlix was over the top. We had viewing rooms for everything. And client sat down and we were so happy and proud of the spot. And the client sat down and was just like, looked at us, was like, I don't like it. And I just remember everybody in the room just sat there and his jaws, you could hear this grunt. I was like, it's just, and
because then you think about the workstation.
Yeah,
and looking at it, I don't want to go back in there and tweak it.
But the best part of it was though, and this is where Charlix was so strong with Alex at the helm. A lot of people didn't like Alex. A lot of people loved Alex. So it was just depending on where you were that day almost with him. But he defended us so wholeheartedly to the client that day and explained how hard we had worked, how much love was put into this project. He's like, I've got people sitting here that are killing themselves for this amazing, amazing piece of art we've created. And Alex, every commercial we cranked out there was art. I mean, you could literally pause a frame. And there's kind of always that old joke we always talk about as artists. It's like, especially commercial artists, it's like pause a frame. That frame should look like a still from a piece of art. And that's kind of how we always ran. Like we would just randomly close our eyes and be like, pause, look at it. Does it look good? Can we see any seams? Do we see anything weird? No. And it made us super anal with everything, which that could be a detriment to how I perform now in some aspects, unfortunately. Mm-hmm. But my standards for my own art now are so high that it's not a detriment at all, but it's challenging for me because I expect a lot out of the people I work with too.
Yeah.
And, looking back at what college offered me, that explains a lot of the frustrations I had in art college. Was I was putting so much time into everything and trying to make everything good. And then at the same time, when you go to a for-profit school, a lot of people, you pay your money, you get a degree at the end of it. Yeah. And for me, that always really stung and hurt me personally. And you have to learn how to not take that personal at the same time, because it's like, oh, Billy Bob here didn't go to 90% of his classes and he still got a degree. Mm-hmm. And I'm challenged myself every day. But in the end of it, I got a job out of it, and a lot of other people didn't.
But the cool part about it, and I think that's the balance there. We talk about art school all the time here on the show and stuff like that, and it can sound like we're bashing, but like at the end of the day, life is the ultimate like judgment on that, right? So all of us who worked really hard in school and we're like, if I'm stressed and looking at like, blur behind the scenes, I'm like, I don't know how I'm going to be able to do that. And like trying to figure stuff out and trying to learn how to be the best modeler and do all this different stuff. If you're pushing yourself in this new thing called After Effects that you found and said, okay, cool, I want to do this. How do I do this to the best of my ability? Who can I be working with outside of class to do this? If Carlos went in and started doing all the different things he did in Flash and realized, yo, this is like kind of the future right now, I need to jump in on this. Mm-hmm. Well, everyone else who got that degree, that's all they got, right? Mm-hmm. I remember I very strategically put people around me during my like portfolio show on purpose that I knew was going to win. Mm-hmm. And all the employers would come to that section, and everybody else would be like looking with weird faces and really nice, VHS tape boxes. But that's when you saw the like, who really were. That's when life, I feel like, rewards you a little bit. And even if it took a while, right? Even if it took 2 years for me, 2.5 years for me, or like a year for other people, or maybe somebody like, or like maybe Jack, who like won Artimation his year and killed it and then got in that way, a digital domain. Like that's when you really see the payoff. Which, no matter what we say about art school, it still comes down to what you.
It's whatever you put into it is what you get out of it, and that's like such a stereotypical thing to say, but that's what it was. I mean, for when I graduated, there's probably 7 of us. Maybe more. Sorry if I forgot everybody's name that I went to school with. But there was probably like a core of 7 of us that we did the exact same thing. I didn't even know you did that, Charlie. Like we all put ourselves in the exact same row just because we were like, we're going to power row this thing and see what it does. And we were slammed. Like we were just busy nonstop. Like EA, everybody was coming over to us saying, what's up? Like, we're really interested in talking.
Oh, that's for sure. That's why I became a lab tech. I had to figure out where to put myself at the portfolio shows, and I worked all of them until I got to mine. And I was like, I want me right there.
And the interesting thing was the school brought me back a year later to give a talk, which I thought was very preemptive and premature, because they were like, "Oh, what was your successes here?" And like, what helped you do it? And I was like, none of it. Like, not to be a jerk, but I was like you guys told me to dress up for my first interview. I showed up sweaty, looking like a goof in a suit. Like, and like my portfolio, I lugged around this huge portfolio, opened it at my first interview, and it just fell all over the ground. And I was like, dude, this thing's stupid, man. I threw that thing out the second I got home. I was like, I'm putting my stuff on a laptop. Or I think, I was like, I'm just going to walk around with a laptop. Like, I don't care how heavy this thing is. Like, and it was like, and they didn't like hearing that, but I was like, this is what you got to do. Like, you're putting your students behind the barrel of a gun here. And it's not a good thing. Like,
and imagine being a career service advisor and these kids can't find jobs, and some of these kids would bring their parents into my office to talk about why I can't find their kid a job. And I want to go back to something that you said earlier about how people like to compare themselves to others, right? Mm-hmm. As artists, we're always Instagram is the best, worst thing ever for an artist, because you're constantly comparing yourself to someone else. It's healthy to look at what the industry has, and you can use that as a gauge. Like, I need to be this good if I want to find a job. But when you're smashing yourself and making yourself feel bad because you're not as cool as that other person, all that, right? But healthy part of comparison is when you're bringing your parents to my office to talk about your kid. I can't tell you how many times I've taken someone else's demo reel. I'll put their kid's demo reel in, and I say, "What do you think? Is that cool?" "Oh my God, it's okay, cool." And I put in another tape and I did this a lot with Patrick Coleman's. Did this a lot with Drew. I think Drew had a fantastic demo reel. And I would put them in there, and then I would sit there and I would watch the parents' faces just kind of like get it. And then I would just ask, "Do you see the difference?"
Yeah. Yeah, I totally get that. I think there's because I started getting asked to do portfolio reviews a lot too. Even for the school, I started initially, and then I started doing them for other companies I was working at too. And that's a little bit different when you're working at a bigger caliber company, because you've got to be really careful with what you're choosing, because you need to know exactly what holes you're trying to fill and just nail it for the company. So there's that aspect. But even when I was coming back as just a freelancer, just to like look and see if there's anybody I wanted to contact with that I could hook up with, I mean, like I said, everything's known, like everything in this industry is all based off of who you know and quality of work. Like, as funny as it is, I actually got asked the other week, they're like, "Oh, do you have an updated resume?" I'm like, "Oh, what?" Like, dude, I haven't. I looked at my last one and it was like, I think I was like, "Can't you just copy LinkedIn?" Because I think that's,
you right click on LinkedIn and just
save as But I was like, even I literally was like, what everyone, and a lot of people have been like, "Well, how do you get jobs?" And I'm like, well, everybody just, and it's not to be egotistical, but it's like everybody kind of just knows you, and they know like, oh, okay, I can bring in Tim to do A, B, C, or D, and I'm not scared. There's a trust level there. So it's like when I would go to this art, when I go to these portfolio shows, I would go looking for students I could either work with potentially or hook up with a contact I have somewhere. I'm like, I know people are looking always for concept artists, but your portfolio has to show a wide range of artwork. It can't just, I'm not going to say what I want to say right now, but it can't just be one thing.
Sure you can.
No, I'm not going to be that person. But like,
send it to me in a messenger message, and I'll read it. I am that guy.
But like, you can't go into a portfolio show with one style of artwork that is not tangible and is not something we see. And while you've got networks that are dedicated to that stuff, you've got to be the top of your tier, regardless if you want to get into that. Even at a base level, you still got to be top of your tier. Right. And so it was just really painful going back to those shows and being like, they were like, they would have those little cards at the end. It was like, "What do you think of the students' work this year?" And it was like, like if I could have drawn an emoji, if emojis existed back then,
yeah,
that's how old we are. Like, I would have just drawn the shrug, been like, like, it was fine. I
followed with the poop emoji.
Yeah, like I gathered some stuff out of this. I don't really know. And then once again, it's not to knock the school. It's something else I always talk about too. Like, regardless of what you draw or how you draw, there's a very obvious quality to things. There's a polish you can put on the worst piece of artwork to still sell it to somebody.
Right.
And, being a creative director for as long as I've been now, when I come back, so I left being a creative director. I kind of just don't want to do that anymore. I did it for a long time. I know the ins and outs of it. I'm also not I don't have any kids, so I can't talk about my kids to anybody. I pull out a picture of the dog and everyone's just like, "Oh, that's not a kid." And I'm like, "Well, okay, fine. This is what I'm talking about."
You tell
like, this
my
is
dog.
Yeah, you tell my dog she's not special. Let's see how this goes.
Look at that face.
Yeah, look at that face. She drools. She goes to the bathroom. What's wrong with you? She goes to school. But it's, but for me, it was always like, that was a big thing. It was like talking and schmoozing. And obviously, as you could tell from just chatting with me, I'm not a huge schmoozer. I'm kind of just like I get so ingrained in the work, and I want the best for the client, and I want the best for my team. And being at Charlex and being wherever else I worked, I always took the brunt of a lot of stuff, and that's kind of just the type of person I am. I understand that there's supposed to be a barrier in some aspects of things. Like your creative director is technically supposed to be the barrier for the artist, but so is your producer at the same time.
Right.
So I hold those positions very true to the title and true to how they're supposed to perform. And there's always that meme going around of like the dragon with the fire attacking the knight with the shield, and then the peasants behind it getting burned almost. And it's like the knight with the shield is your producer, supposed to be your producer. And I whenever I have a situation go belly up because of something like that, I always kind of send that meme out very gently. And I'm like, hey, check it out. Like, this is kind of the process. A, B, C, you protect. And it works that way.
Yeah.
Job is to talk to the client and work with it.
Yeah. And so, from my point of view, I liked taking care of the people I worked with. I liked kind of having that really responsible role. And I think that's what made, and not to be egotistical, but that's what made everybody really enjoy working with me a lot, was that, having a 3D background, having a 2D background, having a motion graphics background, all played really good and strong together when I was out in New York. Because it was just like, I was like, the 3D team was like, wait a minute, we don't have to model stuff for you? I'm like, no, dude, like, I'll model it. You just clean it up and rig it however you want to in your pipeline. So they're
like, what?
Yeah, that's kind of what it was. They're like, that's never happened. And I was like, well, it should happen. Like for me, and it's not, once again, it's not to bash creative directors that don't know all the ins and outs of everything. But I think when you have one that knows those ins and outs, it's very easier to work with, much easier to work with, because it just helps the understanding of things, like it helps you understand the technical side. I've worked with creative directors that just do live action, and that is like, it's like pulling a tooth out, and you just like, eventually you'll grab something and find it and lob it out. But you want that communicative skill there for everybody to understand kind of, this is what we're doing. This is there's a process. I'm showing you something great. That doesn't mean it's done.
Right.
Yeah. And then there's a level of understanding though, which is kind of cool with the people that are underneath you, right? So when you go and you talk to the After Effects guys, it's like, oh, he's like me. Cool. Like, and then like he can give you that guidance with that, but then you go over to the 3D department, it's like, he understands what it means when that UV sucks like that,
yeah, trust me. I mean, that's like, it's one of the best feelings in the world. And I always asked a lot of my artists, I was like, yeah, I'm like, guys, you're feeling go to the direction, you kind of get it. And everyone's like, yeah. And it's really frustrating for me when I stepped back from that role to be thrown into those situations again, where it's like, Tim, you're just not nailing it. You're just not getting it. And it's like, well, what do you want me to do? And they're like, well, I know it when I see it. And it's like, no, homeboy, that's not a game I play, especially being 39 anymore. I'm kind of just I'm like, and everybody's like, Tim, you're just cranky. It's like, no, like, I'm not cranky. Like, there's a process to everything. And, like I said, not to be a nerd, but the Visual Effects Society has a handbook, which I've read a bit of because I taught a class about that. But, there's a very obvious process to get things to be done. And it's up to studios and people to always follow those things, because then it just becomes easier and the job becomes fun again, and it doesn't become a task.
Right.
Feeling like your job becomes a task is when you just step away from things. And that's kind of what it is, but not to get off where my career ended up going. But yeah, so after I got back from Chicago, I ended up hovering over to Leviathan.
Okay.
Who just had kind of started getting their feet wet and stuff over there. So it was like Matt Daly, Jason White, and Chad Hudson, who Chad and I had worked together over at Eat Drink way back in the day, a little bit before I moved out. And that was a cool shop because it was, Matt Daly had worked at Optimus prior, and he's super, super techie. Now he's a Disney Imagineer.
Dope.
Yeah, so his level is like way over my head, like where he even exists. And it was like, that was really fun because we respected each other from a technical standpoint. And that shop was so cool because we were experimenting so much. We did, the whole Amon Tobin ISOM tour stuff. And that was like the first, I don't know if that was like the first camera projection mapping tour stuff. But that was just so awesome. Like, we were seeing video footage from like Mutech, the Mutech Fest in like France or Paris, wherever that is. and we were just watching crowds like lose their minds.
So
Sure,
were they experiential back then, or were they more closer to post?
it was more closer to VFX and post, and
Okay.
that was we started slowly pulling into that arena, um, and that was fun because we had no idea what we were doing. You know, some tech was working, some tech wasn't working, but it's also super frustrating because you're just like, some tech's working, some tech's not working. Like, how do you give creative feedback when we can't test something like this? You know, but then those guys figured out, the whole software team there figured it out, and it was awesome. Like we did the Dodge Dart launch when they relaunched that car. That was freaking awesome. That was a
cool.
commercial done projection mapping. We did stuff for Skrillex back in the day.
Nice.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. But that was where, so Leviathan is when I learned 3D Studio Max was crippling me, unfortunately.
That's when you switched?
That was when I switched. So I kind of just always got this weird feeling. I was like, this software is it's just bogging me down. Like, I've got to buy a plugin to do everything. Like, oh, I need this, I got to buy a plugin. I want this, I got to buy a plugin. And when you're in a studio environment, sometimes that's doable, sometimes it ain't doable. That ain't gonna happen. Yeah. So I ended up hopping into Softimage back in the day. It's like XSI launched, dude. I was like, this is amazing. Like, look at my interface, I can spin something and it doesn't slow down. Like, what the hell is this? And like Softimage Ice, like Ice had just launched. So like Ice was not precursor Houdini stuff in any way. Houdini's been around for
forever.
Forever. Yeah, I forgot what the original names of it were called, but like Ice, my brain clicked with that for some reason. It was like, oh my god, like I get this. I get how to use nodes in a 3D program, and just bashed all the stuff out. We still did use some plugins, but they were so much more limited, and we were saving so much time and money just using those things. Yeah. And so that was amazing. So yeah, I stayed there for a while, and like I said, I was technically like VFX technical director or VFX.
Yeah, what's
director.
The position at this point? Yeah,
I think I was I don't even remember. I think I was VFX director over there because I like directing stuff from a VFX standpoint, obviously. So that title was like, this works, we can let you run with this, you know. And I still had client interactions and stuff like that, so I obviously could open my mouth and converse with people on a normal level. It wasn't just like, picture here, good now, yes, you like good, I go home. But you know, it was really. I've met some people that talk like that.
I've worked with them too.
It was really fun though to like be able to have that techie side. So that's like a really heavily where my tech side started coming out. Was like, I enjoy render engines. I enjoy this nerdism of like figuring out a render, you know, how to make things more efficient. How do we render things that are like 8K back when 8K didn't exist? And it's like all this crazy stuff. So I stayed there for a while, did that thing. And then I decided, I forgot what happened after that. So after where did I go? After that, I ended up going to Vitamin Pictures, which is probably one of my longest stints as staff. So that kind of, we couldn't really figure out a title for me there either. That's kind of the name of the game with me, is like, what the hell does Tim do? Tim does a bit of everything.
Tim does everything. Yeah. He's just Tim.
Yeah, and that's kind of what it became, actually. So I ended up becoming technical director over there. So that was like trying to figure out new ways to use tech for, you know, like, let's try a different render engine. Let's try maybe even diving into like Unreal for a bit there too. You know, it was really cool. And so Leviathan, I started picking up Houdini and bit by bit, little by little. And then I had this weird feeling, an inkling that Softimage was going to die, because I hadn't seen an update for it in a while. That was like a legit update.
At that point, there's 3 guys on the same label. One of them's not getting the attention because the other 2's been there a while.
And somehow Softimage got the axe, and I don't know.
I thought it was gonna be Max too at first.
I thought it was gonna be Max.
And I was like,
because it got CAD.
Yeah.
Softimage never really did catch hold though. It was always very boutiquey. It was very
psyopy.
Yeah. You know.
Psyop.
But the thing, like this conversation going back and forth about Maya and Max, the reason why Chicago was a huge Max city was because there was no real film industry. There was, even commercials and stuff like that. Like they, when people were making decisions about software, when we were in school and graduating and getting into the industry and everything, Max had a grasp on gaming, and Maya had a grasp on film and commercials and everything. And going back to Chicago was when all of this stuff started hitting. Chicago was more of a gaming city. We had, a handful of commercial places, but everything was, EA was there, new whatever the hell they were,
New effects.
Turned into EA. Were there, the high voltage, you know what I mean? So so that's why it always felt like Chicago was always a Max city. But then you go to New York or LA where the industry is different. Those are the folks that were really pushing Maya and keeping Maya on the map. But Soft Image was like, people didn't even know was it Soft Image? Was it Soft Image? Like no one even knew how the hell to pronounce it.
I mean, yeah, and it started to be more of a thing, I think, after getting into the industry, because that was always a big gripe between the two different schools, Chicago campus and the Schaumburg.
Oh my God! Yeah,
and that's why they split and didn't talk to each other too much anymore. We had separate portfolio shows because they were pushing the Maya stuff, because it was 50-50 in the game, but like in the Midwest, I think High Voltage and a couple other places were good feeder places for the school, so they kept going with that. But I even remember getting the job at EA, and they'd be like, "So what do you use?" "Oh, I use 3CO Max." "Cool. Well, we're in Maya house." I'm like, in my head, I'm like, "Cool. It's been 2 years trying to get to this point in this interview, and now this age-old thing is gonna f me."
Yeah.
So he's like, "But it'll probably take you like a month to learn or whatever." So I'm like, lucky I've been trying to learn Maya for most of my college career, but we'll see how this goes. And
so here's a funny,
it took a month, and then they switched me to XXI.
Yep.
Yeah,
that's how it goes.
Off of a creative director that wants to go XSI. So, yeah. But what were you saying? What was your story?
No, I was going to say. So, like, the funny thing is for me is like I still don't know Maya.
Right?
I still don't. Like, so the funny thing was, so
the way it's set up, it's so weird.
Not to jump forward in the future, but I was staff at the Mill Chicago for a while, and back there, it was very funny. I loved that place. I love the Mill for the work they do. It's such high caliber stuff. And the funny thing is like the other Houdini artist and I that worked there, we like my first day, he's like, "Tim, I'm just letting you know, we are creative. We are Houdini. We are a powerhouse here, you and me." He's like, "But FYI, at the end of the day, we're basically data recovery for Maya."
The thing won't work. It's corrupt. Can you just open it?
Because Houdini sees everything, and like Maya embeds all this junk and garbage, and we basically were like the cleanup crew for some of that stuff. And it's just it was always funny. I was like, "That's not how it's going to be." And then all of a sudden, it's just like, "Hey, we can't get this liquid sim over. What the heck's going on?" It's like, "Oh no." Like, really? And then like you solve it, and then it's like, "Oh, cool, we need vertices transferred now." It's like, no, like, why is this? Oh my God. But yeah, so
I wanna go back to something that you said earlier about being a bit of a perfectionist.
Yeah.
Let's talk about that, because I know quite a few people. One may or may not be listening right now currently as we speak, but let's talk about, and Charlie, feel free to jump in on this too, but the fine line between perfect and done. Mm-hmm. How do you balance it, and what's your pep talk for someone that maybe that perfection possibly gets in the way of getting things done?
Yeah, so it's something I encounter with a lot. Okay, so not to once again jump far ahead, but I still do VFX work. Don't think I don't do it anymore. But primarily right now I make toys for a living also. Cool. Action figures and random bootleg stuff. But I still am on the box, yes.
Spoiler alert.
In a different way. But so the main thing that I encounter still these days is like, is it done? Is it where I want to be? So from a toy maker perspective, I have to sit back and I say, you know what? I'm a human. This is the best I can make this. I'm not a factory. I'm one dude in a basement.
Yeah.
Like that's my prep, my prep talk, my little pep talk for myself, to help me kind of realize when something's over. When it's from a VFX standpoint or like a personal art standpoint, I think a lot of that for me is, can I just sit back and enjoy it? And can I remove myself from the situation and enjoy it? That's the key, I think, is removing yourself from being an artist for 5 seconds. Because I have a very hard time when people tell me something looks cool or looks amazing or is the best thing they've seen in a long time. And I'm like, oh, okay, cool. That's fine. Like I kind of brush it off sometimes, and that's really rude of me. And I do apologize for that to people when that happens. But it's where my mind is. My mind is like, I don't want to let it go, but I'm also not a person that will go back to artwork over and over and over and over
Really?
again.
Okay. So you do close it off. Okay.
I do close it off. And I think working in commercials has helped me do that, because commercials are like movies. It's movie quality VFX happening in like a week to 8 weeks to 3 months sometimes. Like you've got to learn to hit your goal fast, move on, hit your goal fast, move on, hit your goal fast, move on. If you need to revisit it a little bit, tweak, get it out of your system. Like that's why I've never been one to want to get into film production, because I worked with a lot of those people, and dude, they're like, I'm working on one shot for 3 months, and it's
tweaker.
Yeah, I can't even imagine my sanity at that point. Like, you know,
this movie will come out in 4 years.
Yeah. That's how it is. I mean, there's times where that happens in commercial VFX too, where you're working towards a goal and that goal is given to you. All of a sudden, at the end of it, you're told that commercial's not coming out for another year, and you're like, wait, what? Like, why was my goal?
Am I doing this right now?
Yeah, why? We can kind of delay this a little bit, but so I think it's a challenge when you're a perfectionist. And being a perfectionist isn't a bad thing, but you've got to realize you're human, right? I think, and that's the thing, you got to realize that you're not a machine. Like if you were a machine, that would be messed up. but you've got to know when to push the off button, and that's just something you learn over time. You know, like in college, I never learned that. That was impossible for me, because I would just look at people around me and be like, oh my God, that's so much better. Like, dude, that's way better. But then at the other time, I could look to the other side of me and be like, oh my God, that's rough. You know, but
you got a box there, buddy.
You've got to see where you want to be. And one of the best things that was ever told to me in college was from Mr. Hyde, Richard Hyde. He said, no matter, he sat there in class one day and was like, look to the person to the left of you, to the right of you, look at everybody else. Those people, while they're your friends, are your competition.
Yep.
And that hit me like a freaking big rig hit me out of nowhere. Yeah. I was just like, holy crap. Like, you guys are all my friends, but at the same time, we're all competing for pretty much the same thing here. Yeah. So if I can't, and it's not like if you can't beat them, join them. It's like, if you can't beat them, find something else you're better at.
Yeah.
And kind of like
beat them that way.
Get around it. Yeah. Beat them that way. And it's not being rude, because that's what gets you somewhere in life that, is acceptable, and you feel good about being an artist. And I gave a couple talks at a couple other schools, and I got really emotional one time because everyone was just like, what's one of the hardest things you could tell someone? And I was like, telling your parents you want to be an artist. Like that's the hardest thing ever. Like telling I want to be an animator, I want to be visual effects artist, because a lot of parents honestly don't understand that. So go ahead.
I was going to ask, did you have that conversation with your parents, and how did that go?
Oh, it didn't go good at all. Yeah. It was just kind of laughed at. I was like, ha, what are you doing? Why are you doing that? It's like,
oh, you must not like eating.
Yeah. And yeah, pretty much. And it was a challenge, but, I think going back to the whole perfectionist thing, I think it's just learning over time. As we all get older, we change. I'm so different than I was even 5 years ago. I'm different than I was 3 years ago, honestly. Yeah. You just mature obviously, as you get older, you mature faster, and you learn what you want to do, what you don't want to do. And I kind of just don't like doing things forever anymore. Yeah. I've got artist ADHD, you know, where it's just like next project go, next project go, next project go. I mean, if you look at my Instagram, I don't put up different projects consistently every day just because I need to keep a social media presence. Like that's something new to me too. We could talk about that if you want to, but like trying to, like everyone says they feel pressure to do new projects, and that's not me. I just do new projects because I do new projects because my brain is running constantly like 1,000 miles per hour. I'm happy I'm 39 and it's still doing that, and it hasn't been stifled off by negativity in the industry and stuff like that. You know, so
don't worry, it only gets worse.
Oh, I know. I'm sure it does. I'm sure I'm gonna have like another. I'm probably gonna run downstairs after this and check and see if things are going good still. You know, I don't know why, but you know, so I think perfectionism is okay, and I think it's a healthy thing because it means you see where you want to be.
Right.
I think that's something people don't touch on a lot. Is like you need to see where you want to be with your quality. You've got to QC your own stuff, and people don't do that. A lot of people rely on feedback, and feedback is great. But man, you get someone that's jealous of you giving you feedback.
Oh,
that goes down to negative.
It's not really feedback.
It's not feedback. That's a negative pipe hole that's going to suck you into it. Right. And I'm far from the person that's like Mr. Think positive mental attitude stuff. I mean, I'm a realist. So for me, it's just like, okay, cool. This could be a lot better, Tim. Like, you know that yourself. This could be a lot better. Like, don't.
Right.
Sorry. As I started talking, my phone started trying to Google what I was saying, which was really funny. So it's just like
mine does a lot like that.
So I was like, stop it, man. What are you doing? I'm like, why is it flashing over here? So I think that's one thing to talk about when you're talking about perfectionism. I think it curbs itself eventually, and you kind of accept it. But I think knowing your limits and realizing you're human and you're an artist, and if you keep going back, then it's not art. Then it's just a task that is eating you away in the brain, you know, and that ain't good.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think my career has always been, it's a good thing you're here because this thing is due yesterday.
Yeah.
So I'm almost, I want to be a perfectionist, but I know that what's that saying? You have to get through 1,000 bad drawings to get to the good one.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm that guy. I get through those 1,000 drawings as fast as humanly possible. And it's not like I'm not trying to be sloppy. I'm not trying to just get it done just to say that I got it done. I'm constantly trying to learn how things go together and what makes it pleasing to the eye. So when I say draw 1,000 drawings, I'm not saying draw 1,000 sloppy ass drawings and that 1,001. If you draw 1,000 sloppy drawings, 1,001 is going to also be sloppy. So you need to focus on that.
Yeah.
And like Kev says, this is getting deep in the feels.
That's why I'm
We're here
man.
for Kev. We're gonna give you a hug.
So deep in the feels.
But yeah, like you have to get your brain into understanding where, like you said, where you want to be.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, you need to let your brain also tell you, I'm tired of working on this. Let's work on something new. You finish it, get out the door. You've learned something. It's almost 100% guaranteed that your next thing that you're going to do is going to be more efficient and just a little bit better.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Yeah. I mean, if you take a step back and you look at how big studios perform, like even movie VFX shops, they've all been through that growing phase of like, what did we do wrong? Hopefully we can learn. Hopefully we can learn. I mean, that's every project I do.
Yeah.
You know what's funny? Just the other day, was literally either yesterday or the day before, Toy Story was on TV. And I thought the story is great, but the graphics are hideous compared to the new ones that they're doing. You know what I mean? So even Pixar goes through these things.
Oh yeah.
Yep. Everybody
So
does.
feel comfortable having to go through these things. It's okay. It's part of your training. It's part of. So going back to school gives you exposure to different things. And it's after school that makes you figure out what you're passionate. I'm going to see what Kev says. You ever look back at your old work and go, "Oh God, this is so terrible." You know what?
Oh, every day.
Off of that very thing,
Like, what was I thinking with that
Kev,
devil?
Kevin, I have this series that I'm going to be working on. Look at Jack. I have this series that I want to do for my YouTube channel, youtube.com/coconutjustice, where I want to go back to some of my very first posts on Instagram, and I want to redraw them. Because if you go back on my Instagram, and I say this all the time, if you go back on my Instagram, you will see it turn into a flaming bag of trash. And I'm okay with it because that's what the hell is supposed to be.
Process, yeah.
It's growth.
There's some people like Travis and Jack that they just came out with a pencil attached to their hand and they just put down magic.
So they woke up. They woke up like this.
But there's others that you just got to put in the work. Generally speaking, even Jack, Travis, all these guys.
Jack will tell you. He goes.
Yeah,
he goes back too and like looks at stuff and analyzes it. You know, everybody does it.
Right. And if you're that kind of person that says, "Oh, I nailed this," like, listen, you don't ever want to be the smartest person in the room. If you are, change rooms. Plain and simple. So if you're super comfortable with your artwork, draw on someone else's style. Plain and simple. Don't be, don't be
complacent. Yeah.
And if you're just trying to get into this, get into it, but continue to practice. Like draw with purpose. Don't just be putting down stuff just to be putting down stuff. And if your parents say this is lovely, it's their job to say that shit.
Because they love you.
And if they say, "Oh, this is great, but it's hot trash," take a look at this other person's work. That's true love.
Yeah.
That it takes someone to like Tim was saying, it takes that realist to tell you, look,
could be better.
Yeah.
And some of us have that built in. That's me. I know that all my stuff could be better, but I know that I have to get moving and making things because otherwise,
right.
People, I know people will say, "Yeah, he's not the most talented," but I know people that'll say he's one of the hardest working people I've ever heard of, I've ever seen, I've ever experienced. So
there you go.
Handle that. We talked about perfect versus done. Yeah, relax on the perfect. Just get shit done.
Yeah,
keep working.
So fast forward then to you left Leviathan.
Yep. Left
Leviathan.
Went to Vitamin. Stayed there for a couple years.
The mill next?
Then it was over to the mill.
Okay.
Hop over to the mill. That was it wasn't my first big studio experience. It was my first big studio experience not being a creative director and being full-time. I had freelance at the mill, New York for a little bit here and there too, doing some stuff.
You were in a Houdini apartment there, right? Were you
I was
Houdini
just
artist? Okay.
Just effects. Yeah. So that for me was a little tough pill to swallow, just coming from being generalist that does everything.
Yeah.
To suddenly being, this is what you do. This is who you are. This is what you make of yourself. And for me, that was really mentally challenging. And I don't think, unless you're an artist, you kind of don't understand that, because a doctor, there's not a really good way to relate it to another job, because I don't know another job that has that type of thing where you could be so good at everything in your field, but then get pigeonholed for lack of a better term.
You felt like you were in a box the whole time?
Oh, I was in a box. I was in a box fighting to get out. Excuse me. And it ended up being, I eventually, towards the end of my time there, got the ability to work with the design department more.
Huh.
It was very separate. Design did its own thing. Design was Cinema 4D based. They lived in their own C4D land and After Effects land. VFX could still do cool looking stuff, but we lived in Maya, Houdini, Pipeline land, normal render, nuke, comping land. So I was always just like, I was there with some other people I'd worked with too, and I was like, why can't this just blend? Like, it doesn't make sense why we're pushing so hard on one thing and the other thing gets ignored. And eventually we started doing pitches together, which was awesome.
Oh,
So
cool.
it was kind of like my job along with another artist there, Josh Van Prague. It was his job we were basically told to blend the two departments and try our hardest to figure out a way for us to both work within one software that has no pipeline and one software that is so completely anally run that you can't break anything in it because it's just under this hierarchy guideline. And that was a challenge. It was a real tough challenge. And eventually, years later, after we both left the company, it's gotten to that point where we can actually do that, which is, and I've been back there several times freelancing, so there's no hard feelings. And it's been great to see the departments kind of coexist now and be like, cool, man, like we've got the Cinema 40 thing, but we need some extra love. Like, you want to try throwing some Houdini at this? And I'll be like, that's fine, because I've got a design background. Design's my major background, and being a Houdini artist, and it's finally taken off. Like Man vs. Machine started a lot of it too, where it's like design can be Houdini. And I think the scary thing for Houdini with a lot of people is they think you need to be a scientist, and they think you need to like know how to code everything in the world. And like,
but Tim, it feels like that when I use it.
I know it feels like
that. It feels like it actually feels like that.
And I think that's a huge problem with kind of how Houdini's perceived. And there's a lot of people making out guides like, oh, if you're a Maya user, how to adapt to Houdini and stuff. And I think a lot of these talks I watch and things forget about the artistry behind a program. Like I do use a lot of custom tools that I've made and I've saved over the years. And there's a lot of tutorials and references files I go back to. We all go back to them just because Houdini is such a big piece of software that if you remember everything, something's up. Like, that ain't normal to remember everything.
Yeah, I'm like, what is that again? What's that name?
Like
oh, there it is.
Dude, there's times where we've spent like the entire companies I've been at have taken their entire Houdini team and put them on one little assignment. Like everybody goes pause, pens down. We're on this R&D for weeks to try to figure out how to do one effect, and someone will figure it out eventually. But it's that hard of a piece of software. But at the same time, I don't use the shelf tools. So I don't believe in those tools that are up on the top. They're great to learn from. There's some things I've learned tricks to use those shelf tools, like the automatic things, like I'm going to create a fireball, click that and it's done. Those are great, but you don't know how it works. So when I first started learning Houdini, I took all those and I pulled them apart and was like, why is this doing that? Why the hell is this getting these numbers? Where's this getting this stuff from? Some of it we still don't understand. A lot of us are still just like, it just works.
I felt like that. Like you click one node and opens up to like 40 others. Like, close it back.
Yeah. That's kind of what it is. But I mean, Houdini is such a broad spectrum for an artist because you don't need plugins. That's why so eventually that's the reason I changed over to it. When I was at Vitamin, we were doing a couple jobs and I was just like, once again, it was the situation of like, this is dumb. We're spending money on plugins. I could just do this here. Let me just do this here. And it's a lot of headbutting to get it to that point, but we eventually shifted over to just Houdini. I think they still were doing Maya, and they still are doing Maya at where they are now. But Houdini became such a powerhouse.
There's something about being able to go in there and like know you can figure it out in one program. It's weirdly as a 3D person, like it's comforting.
Yeah,
even though it's hard, it's like it's comforting to know that it's there somewhere.
Yeah, there was one job I can probably talk about a little bit. So I was at the mill, left the mill, took a little bit of time freelancing. Then I ended up over at Frame Store Chicago. They opened their new Chicago office, so I was there for a while. I was. Once again, I don't remember what my position was because it was all over the place. But kind of the same situation again. It was like, do whatever you do really well and just do it. So I kind of did what I did at Vitamin and Charlux. I did a bit of pitch writing, design frames. I kind of got stuck into the Houdini pigeonhole again, which is doing VFX stuff. And we were pulling to get more design work in. And I was back in After Effects a lot more, still in Nuke, still doing all these things. But like I said, that was even different, trying to like go through that whole process, because even though these big studios have pipelines, those pipelines are night and day from each other.
Right.
They do not operate the same at all. Like I'm sure when I go back to the mill to work, or if I go back to frame store to work, I'll need like 3 days just to like get the gears, wipe the dust off, get the gears going again. Be like, why did we do this like that? Like that's oh, that's right. We don't have that tool here for some stupid reason, you know. And it's been such a challenge to like remember all that stuff. And every time you hop to a new studio, you keep going into. Sorry, I don't mean to keep sidetracking, but like,
No, you're good.
no, it's
You're
cool.
fine.
I don't even remember what we were talking about. What were we talking?
That's usually how it goes here.
When you know you're in that good
We
conversation.
were talking about something.
Where are we
Yeah.
at? In Albuquerque now? Cool.
Yeah, cool. But yeah, Houdini's been in my life for a long time now. But it's still my favorite piece of software to go back to because I can model in it. You could do texturing in it. You could do compositing in it, which nobody does really. But you can. You know, you can write your own plugins in it. You can.
Oh.
It's kind of. I kind of like to say it's like the more expensive version of Blender.
Yeah. Right? It is.
Huh.
It is.
Blender's got all these great. And you know what? I use Blender at home.
There it is.
I use
Yeah,
Blender
guys.
at home for a lot of my stuff. Yeah, when I'm in studio environment, I'm Houdini for everything. When I'm at home, I'm Blender pretty much for everything. Blender ZBrush. That's where I live right now. Blender ZBrush,
Crazy.
Redshift with Houdini if I still need to do any rendering. Redshift is just you can't deny its powerhouse aspect
There it is.
for everything. You know, and that's studios are shifting over to that too finally, which is great because it's like, dude, we're waiting. Yes, the worst thing a Houdini artist can ever hear is we got to do glass and water at the same time, and you're just like, no. I like,
And we got this bottle bobbing in the ocean during a storm.
yep. Who pitched this? And I'm gonna find them and kill them. No, but yeah, I had to do a job, one of my first freelance jobs after I left Frame Store, and it was like, oh great. Oh no, it was after I left the mill, and it was like, oh great, like I got to do glass with liquid falling into it and like a powdered substance like dissolving into it. And we were just in, all we had was mantra. And I was like, like, I was like, I'll show you why this is going to be broken. Like, it was like 12-hour render frames and it was grainy. It still looked like you had like rubbed sand in your eyes and you were trying to see something. Like, I was just like, this is horrible. And I had already had Redshift and I was like, let's just get a license. Let's get one license and watch this. And those frames turned into like 10-minute frames. And it was just like 12 hours versus 10 minutes. Like, come on, man. Like you can't deny this is where you need to be. And that was on one box. We had one box to render the spot in too, and it just blew through it in like 6-7 hours. But it was like kind of like, and that's kind of like where the technical director in me comes out a little bit too, because it's like you've got to know these tricks. You got to be like, yo, we could do this, but there's a better way. But let me be gentle and kind of tell you why, and not just be like, yo, you're wrong, you suck, get out of here.
Yeah.
You know, I've had that happen too, and that's fun. But yeah, so anyways, so I was at Mill, then I went to Frame Store. Frame Store was interesting and fun and good and challenging also because that's, once again, another giant studio that you choose your path where you want to go in it. And I just decided to leave there, and I kind of just had enough of VFX at that point in my life, and I was super stressed, not sleeping very well. And it's just the downside, you know, it's the toll the industry takes on you, and it's not about being weak. It's not about being weak-minded. I think at some point in everybody's career, you kind of are just like, yo, I'm done. Like,
Hit the wall,
I can't keep doing this daily grind and like pretending to be happy and okay with things. And I was like, I remember like, I didn't have an exit interview really, but I remember everyone's like, what are you gonna go do? I'm like, I'm gonna go make toys. And like, I was like, I kind of didn't mean to say anything to like just piss people off. Like, I was like, I'm gonna go grow potatoes somewhere.
Yeah.
But I kind of was just like, I'm gonna do something totally different, man. Like, I need to step away from this for a bit. And it was terrifying. Like,
And I think it's important to get to understand that point, because this industry will always take a little bit more than you have to give.
yeah.
And the more you give, the more it accepts. And it'll ask for even just a little bit more than that.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, I literally just put in a timesheet for 100 hours last week. I don't have any more.
Yeah.
You could always think about too, because like the reason why I wanted Tim to come on, because I thought his story would be interesting as we get to this part, which is cool. The cool transition of finding balance is like I kind of equate it to like the big documentary with Michael Jordan. You can kind of see that like after so many wins, and championships, like you kind of start to see there's a really good documentary. I think one of the best. I was giving my wife crap, but I think now that I think about it, look back, it's probably one of the best documentaries I've watched for sports.
Oh,
Just because I didn't like the way they cut it up into different like time periods and they kept going back and forth.
yeah.
But now I get it because like from talking with you guys tonight, like you kind of find out like there's a formula that he did after a while where he had to find something to make him motivated like
Yeah.
each time, right?
Yeah.
He's that good to win every year if he could, but like some things life happened or whatever he couldn't, right? But when he was there and when something happened, either a loss or somebody says one thing or he hears one bit of trash talk, which was the driving
That's it.
motivation for the rest of the season. All while we've been talking tonight, there's been different points at these different studios that you've worked at, Tim, that you've had weird motivations or problems to solve that kind of got you through different parts. There's great times, but there's also like major like turning points and like problems that you had to solve, which probably like carried over throughout for that year or whatever. And it seemed like we're getting to a point now where you've seen a lot of different things, you've seen a lot of different projects, interesting projects that should be interesting weren't as interesting anymore, and the projects that like were really bad were probably really really bad, but turned out good obviously, because you get wins. And now we're to a point where you have to find something that's both different, challenging, and fun, and for you.
Oh
right?
Right.
Yep.
And take a look at this, like because the creative industry is very much like the sports industry, where when you're a kid, everyone plays. And we know this because literally everyone that sees your drawing on an iPad will tell you, I used to draw. Literally everyone. And then you go to school. Some people get into math. Others stay in art. Then you go to high school. You have art clubs and all that stuff. So now you're starting to, separate yourself from people who are just casual artists, Then you go to college, especially in art school. Now you got a bunch of people who think that they can be artists that are the best from the previous school that you went to or the level that you went to. So now you got all of the high school, all of the best artists from high school are in the same building. So then what happens is if you then have a job, the job is all of the best people that you just went to school with. So every step forward, what you're doing is you're getting more and more competition. And going to the Michael Jordan example, his edge, he learned that even if he manufactured something in his brain to piss himself off, that's all he needed to shut you down.
Or to turn it on. Yeah.
And he believed in crushing people. He didn't want to just beat you. He wanted you in a poster where he was dunking on you. Who was it? He was talking to one of the centers. It was Elijah. It was Elijah. He goes, Michael, you never dunked on me. He goes, bet, I got you. Next time they met, Michael waited and then dunked on him. You can't, like, when you get to for example, we got the Charlie, we got Tim, we got in the chat room, we got Javier Scribbler. He's another amazing artist. We got Jack. We got Jack, who is an animation director / starting to become a director at DreamWorks. We got, who else was here? We have Do. Do is a professional golfer that is now he's an instructor at a college. Kevin is an amazing experiential artist here in San Francisco. Elizabeth, She's an award-winning animator. Who else? Where did he go? Travis.
Where you at?
Travis, Travis, Travis drew on the movies that made me want to be an artist. He worked on Tarzan. He worked on Hunchback of Notre Dame. He worked on
Stuff.
What's the one, the bell with the big Beauty and the Beast?
Beauty
He
and
drew
Beast.
on Beauty and the Beast. This dude's an animal. So if he, and those are the people, and it's not even that, going back to comparing yourself, right? And it's not even that I'm trying to compare myself in a bad way. It's that's the level that I need to be at if I want to find a job at Disney, DreamWorks, Nickelodeon, fill in the blank. And that's the reality of the situation. So you have to keep working. The farther you go in your career, the tighter it is. And going back to this example, you have, like in LA, they have one open desk. They have thousands of people going for that one open desk. You think that they're going to let just anybody in that spot? They're not. That's not how it works. Sorry. And every little example, every little edge that you can pull out, whether it's you're a hard worker and you're getting better, if you need to piss yourself off to become a better artist, if you need to do motion graphics and Houdini and do all this stuff to make yourself stand out just a little bit. And we touched on this a little bit earlier too, where that finish, that last bit of polish that makes you stand out, right? I've had talks with grown-ass men who were looking for work and they were comparing themselves to other artists that were doing concept work. And I was trying to explain to this person, look, it's not that you can't draw. You can draw. You know how to put the shapes in place, but it's that finish. It's that last, that's going to separate you from anyone else. And that's what's going to make you successful. Is that when you find that last bit of polish that really just brings it home.
Yeah. And when you get to a point where, if you're looking for something new and you're trying to find that motivation, in the case of you, Tim, what was that thing after Framestore?
That was the challenge. It was like, for me, it's like, I always am like, what else did I want to do in life? Like,
right.
What else? Like, where the hell do you want to go? But at the same time, I also don't want to take 16 years of VFX experience and just toss it over my shoulder. Yeah.
Right.
That's a dumb thing to do. That is stupid. Yeah, not a good idea. So I was like, the thing for me is like, learning from bigger studios where you get pigeonholed into stuff, be it under your own fault or the studio just treating you like that. I've been a ZBrush user since like ZBrush 1.0. Like, I still have, I think on my Instagram, I have the disc I found somewhere downstairs. And I was like, I remember when I used to use this. And so I was like, man, I bet you I could probably still do this. I bet you I still got that in me. And so I was like, let's see here. And I would always ask, like, let me model some stuff. Let me do a little sculpting. And it kind of was always like, no, we've got a department that does that. We've got someone that does that. And I was like, okay, well, like, I guess I'll just do that on my own, I guess. And I started doing it. And I started just doing random things, I literally, all it was for me was, how can I take everything I know and just use it in a different way? Literally, that's all I said to myself. Like, I know graphic design, I know packaging, I know advertising, I know what looks good to me, at least. Like, what else can I do with that? What are my other options? And one of my really good close friends is Pete Infelice, who used to be AI
Pete.
instructor. Yep. Pete runs Devil's Workshop. Devil's Workshop is a mask making venture he does, where he does sculpting.
When you see him, tell him Carlos said, "What's up?"
We'll do. Yeah, I talk to him all the time still. And yeah, he actually lives like 10 minutes from me, which is funny. But so like he always showed me and kind of told me, it was like, Tim, like, I make the things I want to buy. I make the things I would want to do. And I was like, oh, okay, that's pretty cool, actually. Because, you are your own judge of what you want to make, which is kind of, and like when you're in advertising VFX mode, you don't think about that. You're always selling a product or doing something to tell a story for somebody else. It's never really about you. Even if you're the creative director, it's still usually not about you unless you're the actual client. Then you got the utmost control. But for me, I was like, you know what? I can do ZBrush. I still do ZBrush. I do it pretty well. I could do packaging. I could do it pretty well. And I was at a horror convention, and I was vending there, and it ended up being a situation of I just brought some random things that I 3D printed with me. I bought a 3D printer at one point. And I was like, that'd be kind of cool to make some of the stuff I do in 3D and see it actually made and see if it works. Made these absolutely horrible, like, we were just talking about, you ever go back and look at the stuff you did first? Yeah, look at the stuff I did very first. And, it was only 2 years ago. I kind of started this stuff in like August-ish, and it was just guessing. And I was like, is anybody going to want this garbage? Like this little trinkets and weird stuff that's kind of like based off movies, and I'm kind of putting my own spin on it. And people ate it up immediately. Wow. And I was like, oh, that's kind of different. And then we were at the convention, and one of the vendors came over to me, Craig. He runs a t-shirt and design company called Paul Bearer Press. And he was like, hey, he's like, I get licenses and I buy licenses for movies so I can make prints and stuff like that. He's like, would you ever think about doing a toy for one of those licenses? And I was like, oh my God. I was like, yeah, I don't know. It's kind of like most of my career. Yeah, kind of like most of my career. It's like, sure, I have no idea what I'm doing. I'm gonna go read up on that now. So I was like, okay, I think I can do it. So I was like, let's not say yes. Let me do a test for you quick, and then let's see if I could do this. So I ended up doing a toy for this we love really bad 80s horror movies. That's pretty much my life right now. I lock myself in my office and watch movies and fall asleep on a futon because that's how I live. I love horror movies so much, I'm absorbed into it. And so he was like, oh, there's this really bad movie. Like, do you want to do a toy? I was like, sure. And we ended up doing 20 of them, I think. And they sold out like instantly. And like looking back on those, even I'm like, that was just garbage. Like that the sculpt didn't feel right. Nothing felt right. But it was a first step, and I accept it. And I still have one of them somewhere in the house. And it was great, and from there, it just kept doing a little bit more. I don't necessarily do conventions. That's not my thing. I don't like that scene at all. Like, I don't like having to make a whole bunch of stuff and then try to sell it at once. And it's really hard to do that too when you're 3D printing stuff, you're sculpting stuff in ZBrush, you're trying to make sure it looks good, looks like the correct thing. But Craig was my first client. And then from there, he was like, okay, cool. You did that one. That was great. You want to do another one? And I was like, sure, I'll try another one. Like, what do you got? Gave me another license to work with, and I worked with that license. And it's scary because my brain's not thinking about it, that somebody has to approve this. Like, it was a hobby for me. You're
not thinking like it's your VFX.
I wasn't thinking of it like it was from a VFX standpoint where I've got client check-ins. I'm thinking about it more from like, oh, this is fun. Like, dude, I get to ZBrush from home. Like, I get to do some stuff. And it just kept going. And it would go a little more. And it would go a little more. And then last year, I normally watch a lot of YouTube consistently. I'm a YouTube junkie, and I watch Adam Savage's Tested, like the podcast and the videos they do on there. And Norm and Frank Ippolito would always go to this thing called Monsterpalooza. I always wanted to go to Monsterpalooza, but I live in Chicago. That ain't happening. So I was like, well, like, you know what? Like, let me reach out and see if they actually want vendors to do anything. Like, let me see if, I had no idea how hard it was to get in. I applied, and everyone's like, dude, that's like a 5-year wait to get in that thing. Like, if you get in, it's going to be years from now and all this stuff. And I got an email back from the guy that ran it, Elliot, and he's like, yo, you want a table? And I was like, wait, what?
Wow.
He's like, yeah. He's like, dude, you want a table? Like, I'll get you a table if you want to get in. Like, I love your work. And I was like, holy Jesus. Like, that's amazing. And so I did 3 months of, I put all freelance work on hold. So I still freelance VFX, obviously, nowadays. But I was able to save up enough cash, and my partner at the time was really good at letting me do that. And we balanced things out financially and all that stuff. But we were able to make it out there, and I made it out to Monsterpalooza, and honest to Jeebus, like, it was the best experience I've ever had professionally. Be it
Really?
commercials, be it creative, be it a creative director, be it a director on set, be it working on auto commercials, be it working on anything with any celebrity. Like just being there and the acceptance from everybody. And these aren't like Joe Schmoes at this show. Like these are makeup artists that work on like everything you've seen. Like you name it, they've worked on it, and they've got tables, they're talking to you. Tim Clark was there. Tim Clark's the dude that made the Boggins toys back in the 80s, that I loved. And like, I got to meet him. I got to talk to like some of Henson's family. I got to talk to like all these other people, and I started making all these contacts.
That's crazy.
And then in the middle, like on our first day, it's Friday, Saturday, Sunday show. Friday evening at like 9 p.m. It's like 6 to 11, some crazy hours on the first night.
Wow.
All of a sudden, this woman and her husband come up to me, and I just assumed it was her husband. That was rude of me, but I thought it was her husband. It ended up being, thankfully. And they came up to me, and they walked past my table. Do a U-turn, come back. Do a U-turn, come back. And I'm like, what the hell's going on? And she stops at my table. She's like, okay. She's like, this is going to work. And I'm like, that's always nice to hear. Cool. And she just literally sits there, and she's just like, I want this, and this. And I was like, oh, that's funny. I'm like, I want all my stuff too. I just don't want to keep it. And she's like, no. She's like, that one's for me. The rest of these are for my boss. And I was like, wait, what the hell's going on? She's like, yeah. She's like, serious. She's like, what's it going to be? I'm like, that's a lot of money. And because I was making, at the time, I was basically doing hand painted busts of like iconic horror characters and stuff like that. So I digitally sculpted everything from like magazines and photos and all that stuff, and airbrushed everything.
A lot of work.
Hand painted. Oh my God. Yeah. Tons of work. So I ended up making like $2 an hour in the end. It's pretty sad. Damn. But so she sits there and she's like, yeah, she's like, I want all these. And she's like, the rest of these are for my boss. I'm like, you've got a really, really damn cool boss. And I'm like, and she's like, yeah, she's like, he's a pretty cool guy. And I'm like, okay, it's a guy. I'm like, my brain starts like
who is it?
Yeah. Who's this? And she's like, would you ever be up for doing commission work? I'm like, oh yeah, all the time. Like that's kind of how I do this and why I do this. So she pulls out a business card and she's like, well, here's the business card. And she just looks at me, and I look down, I look at it, and 38-year-old me is trying not to pee my pants, because she ends up being the art director for Kirk Hammett from Metallica.
Whoa, what?
So I was like, whoa, because he's a huge horror nut, if you guys don't know that. Yeah. Like, he's got the biggest horror collection privately owned, I believe, globally, maybe. But yeah, cool. So she's like, he would love to do projects. He sends me out to look for stuff, and would you be willing to talk with us and do some stuff? I'm like, yes, I'm not stupid. Mm-hmm. So yeah, so I'm getting started on that.
CD?
Yeah. What is CD? Can I get one? So it was really cool. So we had a lot of cool back and forth conversations about things. I did some sculpts for him, and then I posted on Instagram a couple weeks ago kind of what I'm doing for him. It's a 4-inch Nosferatu bust, because he's a humongous Nosferatu fan.
Oh.
And so I've got to make a ton of those. So that's kind of like my big plan coming up for June, is to just bash through as many of these as I need to create. I don't know if he's going to sign them or whatever it is, but it was so freaking cool. Like, I went from leaving a job where I felt I wasn't doing anything right, to suddenly being thrown into a situation where everything I was doing was right the whole time.
It's spot on, yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's spot on. And it's one of those situations where you take a step back and you're like, it's kind of frustrating on some levels. And I think a lot of people don't understand that from an artist perspective. Artists are super sensitive, regardless if we say we're not, with like, I could brush off changes and client feedback. No worries. It's still going to bug you, and it still bugs me to these days too. It's like, why are you telling me to do that? Like, that's a dumb decision. Like, my brain will think that. And 9 times out of 10, you go back to option 1 always,
Right.
But I kind of was like, for me, it was like, wow, like, I spent literally 11 months of my life kind of in this loop of like not knowing what the hell was going on. Like, I felt everything I was doing was wrong. And I don't deny it. I was depressed. Like, dude, it took me down hard. Like, I wasn't happy. I wasn't eating right. Like, everything. And it's like, it kind of was like college all over again in a weird way.
Wow. Okay.
I was like, wow, man, this don't feel right. Like, what the hell's going on here? And that's not knocking the company at all. That's not knocking what I went. It's everyone has reasons for things as they do. And I always say I take responsibility for how I acted and how I was as an artist. And I thought I was doing everything right. And I think in the end I still was, but it was so gratifying to hear people at the show say that and see friends that were customers develop out of that too.
That's cool.
So, now I have fun Instagram conversations with my customers, and we shoot the garbage every night almost.
Yeah.
I've made so many close personal relationships just due to it too, and I'm like, there's a whole nother world out there that like I personally have been missing. And like, I'm not one to put myself out there. I'm very private with what I do. Like you said, I'm very hard to get a hold of.
Elusive.
Elusive. But it's like when I put myself out there a little bit more when I started Instagram up and started running things through there.
Yeah.
But it's been fun seeing how that's all expanded, and it's growing, and every day it's growing. And like my commissions grow heavier and heavier and more and more and more. But at the same time, as a 3D artist and as a sculptor, I've never felt I could accelerate to the point where I'm accelerating now. Like within ZBrush alone, I just did a John Candy Spaceballs barf toy.
I was watching it, yeah.
And dude, I think that sculpt was 2 days.
It was fast.
Yeah,
because you were posting stuff on the Instagram. Yeah. I was like, man, he's done with it. He's painting now.
Yeah, yeah. I think paint took maybe 6 hours on it. Maybe 6 hours. Like 4 or 5, maybe, honestly. Yeah. And my first toy was like a week and a half just to be happy with anything, and then figure out how to print it right, how to get everything arranged right, how to convert it right. That's a whole process itself.
Yeah, can you give us like a bird's eye view of that, like your, let's say, your rough sketch, and then that goes
pipeline.
Into what
to go
into what?
Yeah. So for me, it's very simple and sad, actually. it's if it's a client piece that I'm been commissioned to do, I ask up ahead for every reference piece you can give me. It's kind of just like working with a normal client in commercials or a film.
Sure.
Give me every idea you have on the plate. Let's talk through it, because this ain't changing later down the line. Right. And that's also the kind of nice thing for me too now is, being who I am, I still can choose the level of nicety I wish to add to things. Like, do I want to give you another change? Do I want to do that? Right. And that's not to be a dick, but it's like, how much can I tolerate? Because I still have to make money for myself too in the end of the day. And I can't charge VFX rates because no one's going to want a $20,000 toy in the end of the day. It's not going to make sense. But like, so my thing is, get as much references as I can, and I sit there and give people various milestones. And that's one thing that being in VFX has taught me is very important. Having a schedule that is real, having a schedule that is accurate.
Right.
Sharing those changes with people, because we've all been there. Sometimes it's something like, oh, we're posting today. And it's like, wait, what? No one communicated that? Yeah, exactly. So then you're rushing and you put out a piece of garbage and everybody hates it. And of course, there's weekend work coming out of that. But it's nice because I basically sit down. Everything I do in ZBrush starts from a sphere. No matter what it is, everything starts from a sphere. It's kind of the weirdest thing. So I've created myself my own generic head that I start everything from, be it a male or a female version. I've got a female version I did too, just with a little more accurate proportions. I got a male version. And then from there, it's just bash it out. I don't use reference planes usually either in ZBrush, which is pretty interesting. A lot of people I've seen have them in the background for shaping and sizing. For me, it comes very natural. I used to do a bit of hand sculpting, so I kind of understand volume a little bit. And that was due to AI with the one character creation class we had. That was Sculpey, messing up my grandma's oven. Oh my God. Yeah. That was
stank.
Yeah. She's like, why does it smell like pee-pees? I was like,
I still wish I had that one. I still wish I had that. I did Speedy Gonzalez. It was perfect.
Oh, that's awesome. Oh, wait. You got to do a character from someone else?
Yeah.
Oh, I did not get that. We had to make up our own character. Oh man, that did not end up well.
Yeah, the first one was. I think the second one, the final was it, but the first one was like, Speedy Gonzalez. Yeah, it was like,
wow,
character as you're learning. Yeah,
I did not get that. I got my man is called Turd Man. He is stuck to the bottom of my oven. He does not move. He is brown. This is it all day. But yeah, that is like, so that class kind of gave me a little bit of insight to that, and I was an idiot in that class too, because I used Sculpey, but then I was like, I really like sculpting. Let me go buy some Roma Plastina clay. I bought sulfur clay because I was ding dong, because I went to Blick, and Blick by the mall didn't know anything. So I started using sulfur clay without gloves on.
Oh.
Do you have any idea what that does to your hands?
Yeah,
It
stains them.
burns. Hey, the good news is you can rob
it,
a bank now
It
with no
stains them,
fingerprints.
though.
it stings. And if you go like this,
Things,
your
yeah.
fingers crack in every direction.
Ah.
The sulfur, it felt like I had taken like razors to my hands. It was just not fun. But I was like,
No
oh,
one
never doing
told
that.
you to use gloves?
Nope.
Isn't that
So
funny?
whenever
They sell something like that at Blick, and then they're like,
everybody's got sculpting. Yeah. But it was just
art.
like, yeah, so that was fun. So yeah, so I start everything Ghostmosphere to the sculpt. But then at the same time, I'm so attention like deprived, I guess, from art stuff, from the art side, that I'm like, oh, I've got to work on the card back now. I've got to work on the actual art that goes on the character thing. So that's where I'm also like, dude, I can do my graphic design side, take advantage of this. No video editing techniques to create some of this artwork, to give it kind of like an older 80s effect, to give it more of a 90s effect, to do some, whatever the hell I want to do to it, whatever feels right for everything. And then the 3D modeling side, where it's like I can't model organic for garbage in Max or Maya or Houdini. Like ZBrush for me is just natural. You need it. I can model shoes in it. I don't know why. Anything hard surface ain't happening in it. So I actually go back to Fusion 360 for all my hard surface stuff, just because once you're in 360 and you've used it and you're like, wait a minute, I can Boolean without having to worry about topology.
There's
Dude,
no limits.
Boom! Like,
Yeah.
Screw you, Maya. Screw you. Anything else? I don't got a
That's a
VDB
nice little slider that just like works.
Yeah. Yeah. It's just like, wow, this is
Fill
what
it.
that's what CAD stuff is. This is crazy. So yeah, I use that for all my hard surface stuff. But like, so even that side, because I own a whole bunch of airbrushes. I own tons of 3D printers, too many any human should ever own. And then I also own a vacuum form machine. So even like the plastic bubbles that go on the toys, I make my
you're
own
doing
too.
that. Oh wow.
I
Cool.
do my own too. So
Yeah,
I've engineered them to have their own functionality too. Because when people buy a toy, 9 times out of 10, a bootleg artist or whoever makes the toy, you can't remove the toy. The toy is physically a part of that piece forever, unless you're going to rip it and you're going to F up the artwork behind it that someone spent time on.
Mm-hmm.
So I was like, why don't I make removable bubbles so you can actually prop the bubble off? It's not easy to pry off. It's still stuck on there, but you can do it and not damage the card artwork. So that's kind of been like a huge thing for me, is like, let's do that. So that was one thing I did at Monsterpalooza. I did a toy with my friend's shop called Little Shop of Gore. Ryan and Selena that run that wanted to do a hobo with a shotgun toy. So I don't know if you've ever seen Hobo with a Shotgun, Jason Eisner movie, freaking awesome. But like, I was posting about it, and literally in the middle of Monsterpalooza, freaking Jason Eisner, the director, comes up to me. He's got his little entourage there of cool freaking people with him, and he's like, "What's up, dude?" I'm like, "Ugh." Like I lost it, because I was like, "Oh my god!" I was like, "Dude, like, I literally went from feeling zero to freaking like nothing could stop anything that like I was doing."
Wow.
But it was funny because,
confident booster. Yeah.
dude, because that's exactly how it used to be. I used to be very much like, nothing's gonna stop Tim. Tim's gonna roll. Tim's gonna do his own thing.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people saw that as ego, but at the same time, I'm like, no, man, that's for me. Like, I need to give myself this confidence first,
Right.
and then push it onto you guys and let you guys do that. So I mean, it's so yeah. So my work day is ZBrush, Illustrator, Photoshop, print, do my paint, and then either I'm casting something or I'm not casting something, depending on how many runs I do of a toy. Yeah, so it's nice. It's, I mean, I've taken a huge pay cut, of course, but pay cut versus happiness, for me at least, is like, my arm can't reach that high as happy as I am, and how good I feel. And
not to mention, and this is a really good time to talk about a lot of this other social media stuff that that you're getting into. He has Instagram and he's got his things that he's doing, but he's also starting a YouTube channel. What and there's a link in the description of this
notes,
video. What kind of content are you gonna be putting on there?
For all whopping 2 videos. No. But my plan is it's not to ever discount colleges and what they teach and stuff like that. But I think for me, it's teaching people ZBrush and having fun with it. You know, whether it's just a sculpting
nice.
session and they can just see kind of my brain thought pattern behind it, because I think that's really important.
Totally.
Because I don't do things. I hate to be the person that's always like, I don't follow the grain. I go against the grain, you know. But I mean, it's like at the same time, like I don't do it the way everybody else does it. Everybody kind of tackles software differently, and I tackle ZBrush a little differently. I don't use all the tool set. I have no idea how to use 3/4 of the tool set. But I think learning from someone that's an actual artist that has a goal at the end of a sculpt session is really fun.
Yeah.
You know, Pixelogic has an amazing ZBrush channel. I love their artists. I would love to be on there one day too, for the heck, you know, obviously. But like, I think the thing that I don't get from some of their content is I don't get a fun environment out of it. I don't know. Maybe that's just me. Maybe I'm just so kind of just like, bleh. Like I want to have fun when I do these things, and I joke around with people. And I know some people are kind of just like, it's kind of boring. You know, I don't want to hear you tell fart jokes the whole time, but you know, like, that's not, you're working with me, and this is kind of, you know, and it's me working on client work too. It's not me just doing, I want to sculpt this today. It's me saying, cool, here's something my client's given me. I obviously get approval from them first, but it's like, you know, like I've got approval to do, we've got a whole bunch of other 80s movies licenses that I'm going to do. And Maniac, if you've ever seen Maniac, it's a crazy ass 80s movie. Super violent, but it's part of 80s culture, you know, and it's huge. And we got the license to do an official toy for that. So we're doing that. And we're planning out, like, do we do some cool case for it? Do we do, you know, we're doing an 8-inch Mego size. We're doing 3 3/4 action figure size. So it's like all these really cool things. And I'm going to sculpt that all with everybody, because it's like, why not? Like, why hide the process away from people? I think that's something that's gone on way too long with a lot of things, is like holding your card so close to your chest and having an ego about it, like, ooh, I'm not going to show you how I do this. And it's like, nah, dude, like, you look at my Instagram, I show you every step of the way. And it was so funny the other day when I was working on the Barf Spaceballs toy. Someone was like I suck at social media. I don't like hashtagging things. I got a document I copy and paste my hashtags into. And I was just like, I pasted something and it was like 3D, like hashtag 3D printing. And someone literally, not to call them out because I don't even remember the name, someone was like, that's nice, man. You probably want to keep the lies at bay that this isn't 3D printed, but, you know, good practice. And I was just like, hold up. Like I'm not big enough to call somebody out, and I never would do that because I know someone probably just is either trying to troll me or having a bad day or something like that, and that's totally fine. But I was like, man, like, okay, cool. That's exactly, and it's kind of like talking about the Jordan thing. Like, that's kind of what you need sometimes. It's like
cool, I got you.
Yeah, I got you, boy. I got you. So I was like, boom, done. What's up? You know, next day, it's done. It's ready to roll. And it's not good to have that type of motivation all the time, but it's also like, it feeds a fire.
It helps a little.
And especially an artist, it feeds this creative fire that's like under the hood brewing all the time. And like, yeah, it's kind of like sometimes I wait for when I'm working on a job and it's not going well, like a VFX job, and someone says something weird to me, I'm like, you're just stoking the fire for another cool toy. Yeah. Like, yeah, you're stoking for me to go home and make something else. And I'd be like, peace out here. I'll see you guys next time, you know?
Yeah.
So
cool. Awesome.
Yeah, super cool. I'm just trying to get a look at, we've been going for 2 hours and almost 20 minutes.
See, told you to.
Yeah, woo.
Yeah, time flies when you're having
you don't
fun.
Shut up. No.
That's a lot of truth to that too. Let's see. We got Scribbler said, I got tons of Sculpey from 2002 over here.
Still smells the same, probably.
Still probably
Elizabeth just said, that's really cool that you're willing to show people the steps to your work. I've recently seen some artists be really angry at fans asking about their techniques. It's not a great look.
It's not.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
It's no, go ahead.
All I was going to say is if you are trying to be a teacher or instructor, like, that's it. You're a teach.
Yeah.
If you wanna hold everything, you know, teaching's not the right thing for you.
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
one of my proudest moments, because if you go to my channel, you'll see me, I'll pick up some software and I'm like, hey, look, this is what I think you can do with this. Let's take a look. Or we go a little bit deeper, and there you have it. You know, like, oh, I can see, I can take, you know, Adobe Character Animator, and if we dropped in a Photoshop drawing and we moved it around, put that character in the car beside me, all of a sudden I'm singing and interacting with the cartoon character, right? I'm going to show you that because I want you to trust the fact that I'm going to be giving you the information that you need, right? And so then I Scribbler 80 Javier, I really do love his work. And when he said, it was him, right? Yeah. He said, yeah, because he was on the show last week. He said, yeah, man, like I watch your videos and you say things sometimes that I'm like, I didn't even think about saying that, right? I'm not even approaching it like I'm the teacher and I know more than you. I'm not. I'm like, look, this is a cool piece of software. I learned some stuff here. Take a look. And then, you know, you're trying to get interaction from people to say, oh, yeah, that's cool. Look what I did.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Because I have an Apple Pencil. Everyone and their mother has an Apple Pencil. My experience is what is going to make this be different than your Apple Pencil.
Mm-hmm.
How many drawings I've done, the stories I'm trying to tell, all that stuff. But this whole, and I've been on my soapbox literally all night, so I apologize. But this whole famine mentality that we as artists have, we need to get over that. Like we need to move as a community and let everyone know that there's enough food out here for everybody. Let's stop with the crap. Mm-hmm. You know? Yeah. So that's why you can go to my channel and learn a bunch of stuff for free. And I will say this right now. My shit will never be on Skillshare or none of that stuff. None of it. I'm here to change the world. I'm here to teach people, look, I'm not the best artist. Let's take a look at this software. You take it from there. Mm-hmm. And that's it. That's it.
Yeah, I think that's like one thing a lot of people have asked me too, because you know, I'm not necessarily a bootleg toy artist. Like I don't consider myself part of that genre. Like that's a huge subgenre of toy making. You know, like recasting toys and doing all this stuff and making your own thing. Like that's not me. Like I create all of my stuff's 100% original. You know, I create all my stuff now. But I think a lot of people were like, oh, I'm going to buy a 3D printer now. I'm going to do this too. And it's like, that's cool. You know, a lot of people are like, are you worried about stuff, Tim? Are you kind of freaked out about that? I'm like, no, I'm actually not at all, because you can use the same equipment, but your end result is going to be a lot different than my end result. You know, like you may have the sculpting chops, but you have the design chops. And even if you do, that's cool, because there's no way we're both going to do the same toy we like and is going to look the same. That'd be weird. Right. You know? And I think that's where a lot of people forget to do stuff. And even when I do, so I randomly will do Instagram live stuff, especially during quarantine stuff and all that fun blah, 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 right now. I'll randomly just be like, I'm going to go downstairs and just turn this on and paint for a while. And a lot of it ends up being me not even doing what I wanted to do initially, because everybody starts asking questions. And a lot of people are like, oh, what paints do you use? What brushes do you use? Like, I think I saw that in the chat from Elizabeth, you know, like what brushes do you use? What type of thinner are you using? What primer do you use? And I get so excited to talk about that. It's nerd stuff, man. It is nerdy, nerd stuff. But I'll tell you why I think one paint brand's better than the other. I'll tell you what works for me, how it works. I'm not scared of that. Like, I've invested so much money and time into this stuff. Like, I know what works for me, at least. It's not necessarily the gold standard, but what works for me may work for you. And if I could save you hundreds of dollars by not having to go buy paint and cheap brushes or shop at a store you don't want to shop at, Hobby Lobby, you know, you know, like, you know, it's, I think that's a smart thing to do. And I don't think anyone's ever going to knock someone for that, you know? Right. So that's kind of where I kind of like my channel to be, you know, and I'm a little abrasive, I'm a little rough, and I've got a sailor's mouth. I'm sorry, I'm from Chicago. It's
Chicago.
Chicago. It comes out once in a while. You know, like you want a hot dog? But like, you know, that's it's in my system, and you know, I try to, you know, my YouTube channel is not for families. I do it as adult just in case I F bomb because I mess something up. But I like leaving the F ups in there. I pretty much only stream stuff, but I let the stream stay up. I don't like doing pre-recorded stuff. That's just not me. I don't have the time necessarily to do that because I've got so many commissions stacking up. Like if I get an hour to sculpt, I'll go up there and do stuff. I probably will do one tomorrow even. I've got some toys I got to finish. But yeah, I think letting people know information is like the best thing in the world. Like,
right.
It makes no sense why people hold back. And, you know, even in the bootleg toy market, there's people that are so guarding stuff so close to their chest, and they think that they're like the bee's knees, for lack of a better term. I'm showing my age there, you know, but it's like, it's like, the cat's meow. But, you know, I think I don't understand why people do that. And it's not for me to understand. It's not for me to judge. It's just for me to be like, okay, there's that option. I'm going to offer you a different option that lets you. I have been self-censoring very, very well. I just saw Elizabeth say that. Like, I've been good at self-censoring. Yes. That's my goal the whole night. You've
been doing good, yeah, man.
I've been doing very good. If you've ever talked to me in any other circumstance, you know, I'm not like this.
It's true, and she caught me too. I really did. I really did drop an F-bomb way early.
I didn't even know that. But yeah, it's, you know, so I think the whole artist thing, just everybody being open and working, and it's not like a hippie coalition thing of like, let's all get along together. No, there's competition's awesome.
Right.
Competition pushes you and drives you farther.
And that's me, like for me, and I'm going to jump on Kevin's comment. He goes, don't fight for a slice of the pie. Let's make the pie bigger instead, and everyone gets a piece. That's what I'm talking about.
It's great.
Yeah.
That's what
if
I'm
you see my
talking
Instagram, I love pie. Everybody makes fun of me for how much I love pie. I had a customer send me a pie in the mail today, actually. I'm not even joking.
Wow.
Strawberry rhubarb pie. I ate half of it in 10 minutes. I loved it. But yeah, it's, you know, I think that's exactly the truth, you know.
And that's, you know, that's one of the big reasons why I started the show, and we continue to do it, is because we like to hear these stories of struggle and triumph, and actually finding yourself and understanding that artists are generally introverted to begin with. And so a lot of times we might be working on a drawing, and you kind of touched on this earlier, where we're in our little caves and we haven't seen the sun in about 2 weeks and all this stuff, you know, make it nice and dramatic as you want. But but then we start feeling like, am I the only one that's going through this? You know?
Right.
Am I the only one that got screwed over on that contract? No. If you're an artist that hasn't gotten screwed over on a contract yet, God bless you. God bless you. You are living a good life.
Yeah.
Your karma is clear, because the majority of us out here, man, the good ones, the bad ones, we're out here, and it happens. And we need to hear it, and we need to get it together. A lot like Kevin said, we need to make the pie bigger and understand our value. Because all these people, the stock market and all this talk that you're hearing on the news, all that stuff, all those people are doing is math and moving numbers from here to there. Right? Without people like us, math is boring. You know, like, what is it? I am a bill. I am only a bill. Like, it took artists to teach people about a bill and how a bill becomes a law. Because otherwise you got it's boring. We are a very important part of society. Why are we not being treated as such?
Why don't we get overtime? No, sure.
Schoolhouse Rock. Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly,
Yeah.
Elizabeth. Thank you. But yeah, like this famine mentality that we are
Yeah.
stuck in. We're creatives. If we teach and we have each other's back, you know what we're going to do when everyone has learned everything? We're going to create more stuff. It's what we do. We got my man Tim here. He went to school for 3D and then he got into special effects and now he's making toys. He's a creative. It doesn't matter where you put him. He's going to figure out a way to create. If you teach literally everything you know, the next thing you're going to do is learn something new and make something new. So why are we treating each other like it's a famine out here? Yeah, I got some things to get off my chest.
Yeah, I see.
I do. Because enough is enough. You know why, quite honestly, you know why I focused on my YouTube channel and I'm doing all this stuff and I'm very passionate about what I do. Yeah. Is because when you spend as much money as we did on a school and then the school gets shut down for being crooked, you know how much damage that does to people? You know how much damage that did to me? You know how many people went to that school and got ripped off or considered to be ripped off? Because again, I don't think I got ripped off. I got some cool ass homies. I got like it opened my eyes to what I wanted to be when I grew up. So I don't feel like I got ripped off.
No, I don't think we did at all. It's the collective company that owned the school, not necessarily ours. But
right.
Yeah.
Right. So that stuff, all the bad stuff that continues to happen in this world, I'm trying my hardest to make as much good stuff to drown out their stuff. That's why I started my shit. Because especially us moody ass artists walking around here, we could have 1,000 really good comments on an Instagram post, but it's that one person that says meh, and it crumbles us. Why? That still happens to me, and I'm old. and I literally gave up caring about what people think. But still, when I get that one comment, I'm like, oh, and then I jump right down to, you must be having a bad day. You must be having a bad day. Because literally everyone else who has watched that video gave it a thumbs up, really likes it, learned something, and told me, yo, this is dope. That's good stuff. I'm looking forward to more.
Yeah, the comment section can be a double-edged sword, but you know, like we talked about earlier tonight, the whole having that self-checking that Tim was talking about earlier, and like holding yourself to your own like kind of critical standard is like all you really need, you know. And if people like it, they'll like it, but yeah, everything else you just gotta like keep it moving because that can be overly stressful. But
don't
again,
let that,
it's
don't
like
let that stuff. Don't let
yeah.
that stuff stop you either.
That
don't.
first bad critique, you know, like you can, you know, it's the same thing, but that like or that dislike is all can have that same type of effect, or that one weird comment because it's, you know, the anonymity of behind a username. You know?
Yeah, those keyboard warriors.
So,
you know, get out of here with that mess.
Yeah.
But then the cool thing, same thing, is when you have that audience that really gets you and understands what you're trying to do and has your back, you don't even have to do anything. How many times have we heard that story where someone wrote something on someone's post and that same bully got jumped on by all of the other people that believe in what you're doing.
Yeah.
Happens all the time. Happens all the time. And especially today, and with this one, I'm going to get off my soapbox, but especially today where grown-ups are acting like kids. And we all know exactly what I'm talking about. We got some very powerful people who are children. And I'm not talking about just one. I'm talking about people who are driving the bus. Every one of them. All these people are acting like children. So it takes someone to be like, yo, hey, stop, time out. You shouldn't be doing that. Stop acting like that. We, as the artistic community, need to stop with this famine mentality bullshit, because that stuff, that's Wall Street stuff. You let them do that. That's not us. That's not us. The artistic community has to band together and let everyone know, yo, we got your back. How many times have we worked, have we been talking about doing freelance work, and people in the chat room been like, how much do you charge for a logo? $500. All the time. We do that here all the time. We need to work as a community to make the community better, because no one is going to take the art community, this whole starving artist crap. No one is going to take this community seriously until we band together. And I'm not saying join a what is that, the workers thing?
A union?
Union. I'm not saying none of that. I'm saying, dude, we can do shit for free. We can do free things. Have each other's back. Go to my man's YouTube channel. He only has 2 videos, but how much is it going to cost you to subscribe? Not a damn thing. I subscribed to his account. He has 2 videos, and I had 2 accounts open, and I subscribed with both of them. Didn't cost me a damn thing but a click. Man, get out of here with that.
Yeah.
Stop it. That's why we do this every week. That's why we do this every week. To let you guys know, you're not out here by yourself. Elizabeth won an award. She's 18, 19 years old. She won an animation award. How many 18, 19-year-olds do you know that won animation awards? Let's make a big deal out of it. That's a big deal. So come on with all this mess. Well, I'm not gonna teach you everything that I know. That's bad upbringing. You need better parents. You need better parents. Because whatever the hell happened to you in your life, something went wrong. Greedy. You're going to be a teacher and not give everyone the entire lesson? Today we're going to draw an arm, but I'm not going to teach you how to draw fingers. Man, get out of here. I can go on and on. You guys need to shut me up.
You really can.
I got triggered.
But we really need to wrap this up. And I'm gonna say you can't be on your comments for a week. It's been great conversation tonight. That's why I wanted Tim to come on. The story, the evolution, the full story. And I learned some new things. So it was really cool, Tim. So thanks for coming on tonight, man.
No worries. Thank you guys.
Keeping your mind open to possibilities,
and then
right?
Change and evolution.
My man went from being a car mechanic and now he's making toys.
And now it looks like it's just really, really just ramping up now. So looking forward to all the new stuff after we get over all this COVID stuff. 2021 more. I'm sure you have a mainstay now at Monsterpalooza. I don't think you're gonna have trouble getting a table anymore.
Yeah, no.
You never did. You never did get in trouble. But that right there seems like this is like your Valhalla in terms of like who's who, that you never know who's gonna show up to your table now at this point. That's to be a great feeling. So keep a lookout for that. Sign up to us. Instagram and his YouTube.
Yeah,
They're,
go down to the video description of this and click on his YouTube link and subscribe. He's going to be making content.
yeah.
I'll
Because
do
now
more.
that I got his email, I'm going to be on his ass.
I don't know.
That's fine.
Does Instagram save the videos you were doing? Those are just Instagram Live because
So
you
you know
were
what's-
doing Instagram Live
Yeah,
for a
so
while.
you know what sucks about Instagram is you would think they would have a little bit better interface with things, but like so when I do the live stuff, I can add it to my stories, but then I believe your stories are only 24 to 48 hours.
Gone in the ether.
Yeah, and then it just disappears because they don't have an archive system.
Hmm.
I can save them to like an important thing, but I don't know if I get like, dude, I woke up the other day and my Instagram interface changed completely.
You're like,
Like,
no.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like they modified something on my
Yeah.
end because it's like I think I've stepped up in their user like awareness category or something. I don't know what's going on, but like my Instagram's been blowing up like consistently daily, which is awesome. It's a really nice feeling, you know.
Yeah, no, that's good. No, I learned this from other people that were what they call Insta famous and kind of got past that like certain
Hump,
subscriber
right.
hump, and then like they said, the interface keeps changing and they keep
Yeah.
adding stuff. You start
Yeah.
to see analytics and matrix
Yeah.
and stuff that you
Yeah.
don't get.
all that
So
stuff. I
like
got.
it's kind of crazy.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Kind of crazy, scary, but cool.
So what's all your social media? Let's run through it so everybody knows.
So primary is going to be Instagram. I do have a Facebook account for the quote unquote shop for Veda Toy Shop. I don't really update that as much as I should because I kind of just don't like Facebook.
Fair
Kind
enough.
of- kind of a
Samesies.
stickler with that. Yeah, I did some work for them back in the day. I don't like how creepy it was. But
That's
watch-
just because it's a group of
we're watching
developers. You're fine.
it kind of was like we're watching you.
We're watching
Oh,
you.
this is track
Hello,
your
Timothy.
face.
How are you today?
Sure, I know it's going to do that anyways. But Instagram's my primary thing. I do everything on there. I dump it all on there. YouTube now. I was doing Twitch for a short time. But I think getting followers on that for me was really, really tough. Yeah, Instagram has just been so much better. And I've, like I said, even the other day, I think I like managed to figure out how to wedge my camera tripod in between my crotch just to film my screen for Instagram Live the other day. But, you know, it's like that's the one thing I wish. I wish Instagram would allow you to stream from your desktop. And I know there's hacks and ways to
yeah.
do it. And the whole square format just kills any efficiency with that. But Instagram's so much easier. And
Totally.
it allows people, you know, it says like notifying all your fans that are online. And it's like, dude,
thank
that's
you,
awesome.
Instagram.
Yeah, like that's doing the groundwork. I need a piece of software to do. You know, I can make the funny jokes. I can make the stupid stuff I'm sculpting. But I mean, even like the other day, I think I just did a sculpt. I'm working on a sculpt for a wolf boy toy, kind of like an Eddie Munster toy for a friend. And it was just showing people like how I kind of did the ooze drips on it. You know, it's like fun stuff like that. Like I like doing, and it keeps my head out of kind of like the negative space too. Because I think as artists, we all like to create, and creating is what keeps us out of the down times and the bad
Alive.
times. You know, yeah, it keeps us alive, literally keeps us alive. So yeah, I think it's really important just to share fun experiences and things I find with people.
Yeah, it's
Veda Toys.
Veda
Yeah.
Veda Toys. And it's youtube.com/
Veda
Well,
Toys also.
hey,
Oh, well, no, you know what? Not yet because I don't.
Yeah.
have-
We
So
gotta
that's
give
what I have.
if you can hear my voice, follow that link. The least we can do is get my man his own YouTube URL.
Yeah, that's so sad. Like I don't know why they did that. I didn't realize they even did that until I was like, sign up. You're like,
You're like,
here's your-
oh,
here's your QPRZYW. I'm like, oh, that's great. That's gonna go perfect. I just want a shirt that says that now.
That would be cool.
cool.
Well, thank you guys.
All right.
Thank you, man.
Thank you for taking time from your cool life to hang out with my venting ass.
Cool life of my dark room here. Yeah.
Hey Charlie, hit him with them deets.
Yeah, so if you're looking for me, you can find me at my website, cargocollects.com/CharlieBWilliams. You can find me on Instagram, CharlieBW3. You can find me on Twitter, CBW3. And then if you're looking for the cool artwork that I like to look at and all my references and all that good stuff, head over to Pinterest.com/CharlieBW3. Get it in your life.
Yeah, son. And you can hear my ventings at youtube.com/triggeredcarlos. No, kidding.
Carlos Farrakhan here.
youtube.com/coconutjustice. Go get that free information, son. It's worth it for real. Sketch Zone, sketch.zone. And you see, we got a bunch of people like Gabriel. Gabriel is inspired. Thank you for hanging out. Javier, Elizabeth, Jack was here. He might not be anymore. Kevin,
Kev, thanks for
Do,
that.
my man, Do. He's for real. Like, let me tell you a story about Do.
Here we go.
I
We're
was
almost
living
there.
down in Southern California, and I kept going to this golf driving range. And I didn't know what I was doing really much, you know? And I kept hitting the balls in the driving range, but the driving range was right next to the road that came down to the parking lot. And so I was launching them into the parking lot. And Do and this other dude that are professional golfers, they came up and they're like, "Yo, we got to teach you how to golf, brother, because if you hit my car with one of these balls, we ain't going to be friends no more."
Thanks for helping him out.
Shout out Jack, Landon, Kevin. I said Kevin. Who else was here?
Elizabeth.
Travis. Travis is amazing. If you guys can hear my voice yet again, go to youtube.com/sketch2animate. Travis is literally working on a cartoon from nothing to pitch, and he wants to pitch it to studios and stuff, and even work on it and actually have it be a cartoon. If he delivers the cartoon to YouTube, then that's just how it is. But yeah, you guys need to go check that out too.
Yep.
He streams like I think Wednesday and Thursdays for like 3 hours a piece. Bro, 3 hours of information from a professional 2D Disney animator / badassery. So yeah, go get that. Javier, I think I sent him.
Yeah.
I'm scrubbing up and down the chat
think we got
real
everybody.
fast, but yeah.
Shout out to
Anyway,
Elizabeth. Thanks again.
you see how we like to do. We like to have the audience interact with us. There's sometimes we're asking questions, or you might have a question that we can help answer. Yeah. And if you can catch us live, cool, do that. Otherwise, we will see you. We try to be here every Thursday night. California time is at 9:00. Yeah, that's about it. Check us out. We have all the links at the description for Tim, for Charlie, for my stuff, Jack's stuff, Instagram, Facebook, all that stuff. So get that in your life. Check that tagline. Anyway, all right, you guys, I'm going to shut it up. Have a good week.
Time to go.
Thank you.
See you guys. Later.